Hey guys, today's video I'm building a brand new shed with my son Matt, and we're going to show you every step of the way so you can build one of these too. Cheers. I laid out the frame here to give you an idea of the space. That's a pretty good sized room, and we can go 10 feet tall, and that is going to be amazing. Now, when I'm working on something like this, I like to build my shed base like as making a deck. Okay, I want it strong enough to carry the live load and the snow load in the wintertime. Being up here in Ottawa, that's always a big concern. The beautiful thing about it is the CAMO blocks that we're using today are rated for 1,800 pounds each, right? So that's more than double the strength that I need for a structure like this. So we're going to go through our construction process one step at a time, explain a few options as we go through this, okay? So it'll help you out. And remember, when you're building something, building code is different all over the place. Places like Florida, when they get high winds, everything's got to be attached into the ground. So make sure you can, consult your local building office before you just go running ahead with a project. What I'm going to do, just to make my life simple, because 10 by 16 is an actual dimension, I've got a 2 by 8 by 10 foot. So I'm just taking the boards and I'm going to square them off, throwing a single screw on all 4 corners. There we go. Now, this doesn't have to be exactly perfect. The system we're going to use today is really easy. We're going to be putting a block in a location here with a 1 foot overhang. Same on the other end, same on the back. What we're going to do is we're just going to finish off the squaring of this so that we can use a marking paint and mark where the block is going to get cut. Then we can remove the lumber, dig the hole, set the blocks up, and we can build this thing really quick. So I'm taking my block. Very important that you get rid of all of your organics when you're going to be working in this scenario, okay? So get the grass, the black dirt if it's there, and then this will actually sit pretty much flush with the finished grass. So let's make sure we make this big enough. Here we are. So we got a 10 by 16 deck that we're making. That's the outside dimension. And the way we're building our deck is we're putting structural posts at each end, and then we're putting a ridge beam, okay? And then deck boards off of that. All right? These help you get the end from the beginning on this process. But this ridge beam has to be 2 pieces, okay? So, same at the other end. It's 2 boards for each 1.5. That means I got 3 inches there, 3 inches here, and my joists then have to be cut to fit inside that, so the total span is 10 feet, all right? So what I need to do with all these is cut them down to 9'6", so that when we're finished, the outside dimension is not bigger than what code allows. If I just start using 2 by 10s and framing it up, I'm gonna have the building a few inches longer than it's allowed, so think back from the beginning and don't do that to yourself, because if you ever get a code officer, here's a complaint from a neighbor. That's why they show up. They got a neighbor complaint. And he comes out with a measuring tape, and if your shed is 10 foot 1 inch, well, the neighbor's right. It's too big. Now, in order to do the cuts, we're going to follow a simple procedure here. We're going to flush these together, because I hate measuring over and over and over again. Wow, that is not exactly the same length, is it? All right, so the reason we're flushing up at one end is I can't just go on to say, this is a 10-foot board, I'll measure off 6 inches. You always have to measure from the beginning. Pressure-treated lumber, generally speaking, comes in varied sizes, all right? You're not gonna get exactly what you think you're getting. Let's see if this is even 10 feet to begin with. Yeah, this is 10 feet and 1/8, not a big deal. But if every board has got a little variance to it and you start sticking them together on a deck, you end up with your deck frame is all over the place, right? So here we go, 9'6", mark that, square, marker line. Woo-wee. Now, because I set them up flush, the next board is already ready, marked, ready to cut. Do that 13 more times and we're good to go. And like any other outdoor project, guys, all your cuts, right? Get that cut and seal on there. Okay? This brush is a little bit too big, but be real generous with this stuff. It's not as good as being pressure treated, but at least it's treated, all right? And the truth of it is, all these cuts are actually going to be not really exposed to very much weather. Where I live, we have limestone screenings. Limestone is everywhere in the quarries, and it is a fabulous leveler. This is stone dust, and it packs together pretty darn good, okay? Which is why it makes such a really good structural base. Because when this stuff is wet, it actually has like a bonding element to it, okay? It kind of becomes like a concrete block. But it's great for drainage as well. So we're gonna put in enough to go about an inch, inch and a half. That's plenty. And then we're gonna tamp it down into something structural, nice and flat, that we can then put the CAMO block on. And there we go. Okay. Now we've got compacted dirt. We've got compacted limestone screenings, or stone dust, if that's what you have to get, okay? It's the same material that they use to set interlock block, okay? And what they do is, in those processes, they just set it. They don't even pack it. And then they put all the blocks on. And then they'll do a light packer over top. We do this in reverse. We pack first, we set the block, and then the CAMO block is rated to carry 1,800 pounds each location. It's a lot of weight, all right? Give you an idea, the entire shed that we're building is probably gonna be, about 2,200 pounds. So even in the wintertime, I got more than double the strength necessary here. The versatility of this block is this. We're using the 4x4 post, okay? But you can also put in a 6x6 in this dimension if your structure requires it. This ridge here is 1 5/8, which is basically the thickness of a 2x lumber. And this ridge here is 2-inch, which is the same as LVL. So depending on what material your design calls for, or your engineer, or your architect, or whatever, this solves every single problem. And what we do is we simply line this up so that the 1 5/8 is going all the way across, which I didn't do yet. And you can take your lumber, and that's it. All right? Now this requires your surface to be flat before you can do this. But if you do a stone pad, this works really great, okay? Remember, one of the advantages of using a product like this is you're separating your wood structure from the ground, so there's no wicking of moisture. So now the only moisture that's left is the moisture in the atmosphere, and everywhere you live, you go through seasons of wet and dry, and buildings will dry out. As long as you're not in contact with the ground, you can build anything that'll last a long, long time. So what we're doing is we're just setting our bases so that I can get a 4x4 post, visualize this coming out of the ground. And then my rim joists, at least one of them is sitting right on top of it. Preferably both, but one's plenty, all right? And that's my point load transfer location. Where's our crown? Yeah, it looks pretty damn straight, eh? Okay, there we go. Yeah. All right.
So we got to make the holes a bit bigger, right?
Yeah. I think what's probably best for us to do is dig the backside of this hole out a couple more inches. While Matt's doing that, I'm going to bring this board up front. We're going to mark off for our floor joist package. Let's just go to basic framing. Okay, we're going to go every 16 inches on center. Best practice is you have both rim joists in the same location when you do this. seen it so many times in my life. You'll have one guy over here marking from 16, and the other guy will go over there and do the same thing, but from the other side. And all your joists are on an angle across your deck. So 16 inch on center is this. We got a board over here. We mark 16 inches, and then we put the board from that line over here. Okay? Here we go. So I'm just gonna mark this. And the red squares on this tape are always the 16 on centers. At 4 feet, they're a little smaller. Everywhere else, they're big. Here we go. Okay. And then once I'm done going all the way across, I'll just connect my dots. And if you want to use a square, you can. You just go like this. Okay. There we are. Let's start by nailing this up. Just so you know, when you're nailing anything, building code is it's one nail for every 2 inches of dimensional lumber. This says it's a 2x8. Okay, so there's 4 nails on the surface. Or 3 nails in a structural screw, all right? Either way, that's the rule you follow. Otherwise, you fail inspections. Twist it. Not bad, eh? Okay, so there we are. Now we'll just tape measure this sucker. Now, we got our 4 locations, we've got our frame, we're roughly square. Let's grab 2 of those boards. So now we got our frame set. Just tossing a little bit of leftover wood. If you only go 1 screw, it can still maneuver. But if you use 2, you lock the corner in place. Okay. All right, now we're locked in place. We're ready for our next step, and that is to level this bad boy. Here's how you level off a deck when you don't have $400 or $500 laser levels. Temporary screws. You peg the corners, kind of looking at what you think is about level. You can eyeball this pretty easily. I'm gonna think about something like that. And once we get this started, making the minor adjustments with the level is easier. But you can't just level one end and be perfect right out of the gate. Every corner has to be up in the air, give or take where you want this thing to go. Now, 1 screw holds 80 pounds, okay? So that's all you need to do, 1 in each corner. The reason you have to do this is because the point load isn't at the corner, it's here, okay? So get a good close reference before you start going around. And you'll probably have to do 2 runs. Yeah. Now I am off just a hair. And like we show you all the time, keep the bubble in front of you. There we go. Perfect. Here we go, buddy. So I'm probably, I don't know, 2 inches out. So I'm gonna put this right in front of my face. Down a bit. Oh, actually a little higher, isn't it? Okay, I gotta reset my screw. Now, what we want to do is go just a little bit higher than it should be, because once all that weight goes into this 2x4, it will sink a bit. So we would take this bubble to that side of the line.
Here, let me switch off my...
Ew, I'm carrying it. Yep, okay. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, and whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, bring it down a little bit. And right to the line there. Now the weight will transfer. Okay. There we go. Now we can do this corner over here.
And you're good there.
All right, so the bottom of the base, we don't want to measure from the bottom. We want to measure from these ribs. That's what the 4x4 will sit on. And then it has drainage holes. Okay, this whole thing is designed to drain, so it's not setting wet. So when you're measuring, make sure you put your tape on the end of this to measure up. Now, for everybody who's watching and you've got code compliant issues with ground level decks, where you need to have fasteners and your posts are in concrete, you've really got to map this out and lay it out perfect. But what you do is you can take something like this, okay? Attach your bracket with structural screws or nails, get your double rim joists in here, and then attach all that as well. That'll hold your entire structure into the concrete that your posts are set in, okay? What I would recommend is get your posts in your holes, get your frame, get it squared off, and then once you've got all your hardware attached, then pour your concrete. All right, that'll be a lot more merciful. All right. Now we're gonna let all the weight sit right on there. Whew, that gets hot. Oh, wow. Now we just gotta bring all of our cut joists, line them all up. We're gonna nail them on, and then after we nail them in, we're gonna add the floor joist hangers after the fact. The hangers are just there for good measure for longevity. And then we're ready to sheet it. We're gonna be done this in about an hour. Guys, what we're doing is we're just gonna line up our wood where the X's are on our frame. I know we're supposed to use 4 fasteners, but I'm gonna use 3 nails, and then I'm gonna use a GRK structural screw as the 4th fastener. What it'll do is that'll help pull everything nice and tight, helps maintain square, and eliminates the need when I go to put the joist hangers on to put a screw in every single hole in the hanger. All I gotta do is stick the hanger on and put a screw on each side, and that'll help to transfer the load and take a lot of that weight off of the nails and their shear strength. All in all, it's all overkill. All right, what we're looking at here is 2 floor joists, and I'm gonna just demonstrate crown, because what we wanna do is we wanna install the crown up. In an exaggerated world, it means it's like a rainbow, okay? Because then as weight gets put on it, it flattens out. If you go the other way and it's like a bowl and the weight goes on it, it gets even worse. So dimensional lumber is never a perfect surface. It's not an engineered floor joist. So you gotta try to work with the curves, because you don't want to have one up and then one down, because then it's really hard to get your sheet goods installed without them screws and nails popping over time. So here's my structural screw. When it's buried, it becomes the 4th fastener of the run, and it goes about 2.5 inches into the joist. What that does is that compresses the deck together, all right, to maintain its shape. These deck fasteners, the joist hangers, they have the surface mount pins and surface mount screws, and then they also have the ones on the side. And the angle is designed to actually have the screw coming in at an angle, right, through this wood like that, and holding these 2 pieces together. Okay, that's what those screws are for. But in my opinion, catching the hair of corner and with a screw to keep it all compressed is a weaker system than driving a nice 5.5 inch right into the middle of the joist. Okay, there we go. So when we hang our joist, I'll just have Matt demonstrate real quick. We're just gonna hang it, tack it in place. The little tabs here just get nailed into the wood. There you go. And then he can come along later with the structural screws. Bits come in the box, okay? And these, instead of using nails, you can pull out your impact driver. This just slides right in there, and you can drive a couple of screws across the top and finish all that fastening. That way, every one of these joists is sitting in a steel bracket that's screwed to the rim joist with a structural screw in each end. This is my system. I think it's far superior to anything that's designed for decks. And it's relatively quick. Ah. There we go. These screws are the difference between a strong deck or one that's going to fall apart on you over time. So this is a stabilization block, I call it. It's basically just Yeah, stupid carpentry, really. See, the whole deck just moved over on that one. I'm driving this right into the 4x4 post. And then I'm gonna drive one of these into here. And then ultimately into the second rim joist when it gets there, okay? We'll leave that for now. I'm gonna do the same thing at the other end. This should have the effect of getting rid of that wobble. Yeah, it's already gone. Like, that's just awesome. Now, having blocks and screws on the inside of both ends of the framing really gets rid of a lot of that wobble, guys. And we'll wait until the other rim is on before we complete that, okay? That's much better. Okay. Every time we add another layer to the structure, everything tightens up and tightens up and tightens up. We'll get the double up on the rim joist first, then we'll finish off our bracing, and then we'll start the plywood. Now, same rule applies. 4 nails for every joist. But instead of nailing where the joists are, we're gonna offset them so we're not hitting the other fasteners, okay? The other thing I gotta do, this one has a lot of crown, is I tack both ends. Now I gotta force this one down. All right, so what we're gonna do, create a bit of a gap so I can get a finger in, okay? And then I'll set up my screw. I need it to close about 1/2 inch. So if the gap is 1/2 inch and I need to close 1/2 inch, I need to put the screw on a 45-degree angle. All right, so I'm gonna do that right here. Just making sure. Okay. Now I've made contact with the other piece of lumber at a lower point. So as I tighten it, it should warp these back bent straight. Here we go. Actually, a little lower than I need to be. Here we go. Now I'll nail the joist. Now I can remove the screw. Perfect every time. Okay, so now just a quick recap. Now I've got 2 pieces of 2x8 lumber, both sitting on the post, nailed together every 16 inches with 4 nails, which effectively triples the strength of the beam, not double, okay? Which is really awesome. Now, I can finish driving this screw. Solid as a rock. That's awesome. Okay, we'll do the same to the other side. And now we've got the structural component of a double beam carrying all the live load and snow load from the roof from this half of the building to 2 point loads, all right? So all the way it'll come down, hit this, transfer to this point, go down that 4x4 to the ground, which carries the 1,800 pounds at each location. That's basic structure 101 for decks. Remember, almost everybody has got a slope in their yard, right? Yards are designed to move water away from the building. So everybody's got a slope. So if you're gonna put in a shed this big, you're gonna wanna have something to level it out before you build, or you're gonna drive yourself crazy. We're gonna go put our subfloor on now. It's actually, well, it's not even a subfloor, it's the floor. We're going 1/2 inch pressure treated plywood, 4x8 sheets. And the system here is we're installing the floor with nails. You can use a nail gun like this, it's a roofing nailer, 1.25 inch, or you can use the screws with your impact driver, same thing. It's a shed, not trying to be sexy on the inside, trying to be functional. And we wanna have something that we don't get any grass or weeds growing through it in the future. We do have a wild parsnip problem in our ditch around here. And so that stuff is spreading. And I don't want to walk in the shed one day and have wild parsnip growing up in between my floorboards. Yeah, that would suck. So we're going with a solid surface floor. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just start off incredibly flush with the backside, all right? And meeting in the middle of this joist. Okay, There's my row of nails. Now my job is to make sure that I'm somewhat square here, right? If I'm square, 2 sheets of plywood go 16 feet. I will land on the end perfectly flush. Hold on. Okay, so now we've got that. I'm tight there, I'm tight there.
Yep.
And I'm flush here. Now it's square. Whenever you're nailing down plywood, start on one side and then work your way across the sheet. If you go and do the other perimeter, the plywood always comes off the roll of the hump, okay? And you're gonna have to force that into play. You can't use nails. You have to use all screws. And there's gonna be forever a fight trying to push them back off the screw. So, because sheet goods have a curve to them, you roll them out and you go from one side to the other side, and it's kind of like rolling out some pizza dough, right? It's kind of the idea. Now we know we're perfect. Now it's good construction practice to stagger your joints, which means we'll measure from here, from the right side of the sheet, cut that off and put the other piece on the other side. It's still 16 feet after all, so we don't really need to go through that extra effort, but it provides a little bit more stability for the lateral movement of these joists. There we go. All right. Okay. Let me go get my saw. When you're gonna rip up against the joist, get the guard out of the way. Set the blade right up against the joist. Slide it into position. I've got a mark, okay? And we're gonna push straight forward and try not to gouge too much of the wood out of there. Everybody? Yeah, I'm obviously hitting something. We're gonna set the depth here at 5/8. So the chalk line got me close, but my blade was set really deep, so I'm just cutting into the joist here a little bit. And that's why I made the adjustment, so I was only taking a little bit of the wood, so at least the battery-powered saw could keep up. But best practice here is snap the line, pull it loose, cut it, and then shove it back into place. Some things you learn the hard way. Okay.
Okay, now we chalk it, right?
Yeah, grab a drill and a screw and just throw one in. Throw one right here for me. Just so that would keep everything comfy and happy while we do this. I know, guys, that was quick and stupid, right? And yeah, you're right. And when I'm dealing with houses, generally it's like I like screws, right? You can take it a step further. You can even put, adhesive foam on the joist before you lay your plywood. It's just a shed. And you're gonna see, the rest of the build is going to reflect that very same practical approach, low cost, but very, very low maintenance. And I think that's the kicker. We have a 16-foot actual dimension length of shed here. So that means that if I want to build a 16-foot wall and then lift it up, I'm going to have all the weight of about 16 studs and top and bottom plates and then 4 sheets of plywood. That's a lot to manage on your own. So instead, what I do is I'll break this down into an 8-foot section and then another 8-foot section. And I'm going to have one extra stud used in the entire assembly. So I'm out $5, but I only have to carry and lift half the weight each section. So for me, it's a definite win. And it makes a really difficult project of lifting a 16-foot wall where you need 2 people to help you, and it turns into something you can do on your own. So same thing, we're just gonna mark off all of our 16s, okay? There's the red squares, mark to the right, mark to the left, I don't care, but just have a system, okay? There we go. And I'm gonna be building an 8-foot tall wall, The reason for that, sheet of aspenite, a 7/16 sheet of aspenite, comes 4 feet by 8 feet. So if I make an 8-foot wall, I use 2 sheets and I don't have to cut anything. To make an 8-foot wall, you just go to the store and you buy a 92 5/8 stud, okay? Because you get a top plate, a bottom plate, and then a second top plate, and it comes out just a little bit more than 8 feet. So it's perfect every time. Now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 studs. I got my studs marked. I got a top and a bottom plate. Here we go. There we are. Now 2x4 means that I need 2 nails because it's one nail for every 2 inches of material. There we go. Once you got it laid out, that's it. Nice and easy. A lot of times, guys, your building material is going to come with a pile of staples in it because they ship them wrapped, okay, so that the water doesn't get into it. This is not pressure treated, so it is imperative to keep it dry. Just a couple things to consider. I'm using an 1 1/4 galvanized now. Now because there's no code, we can do whatever you want. I mean, you can use a really large crown staple if you're really in the mood. But because this actually has 2 functions, 1, this will square off my wall, but 2, it'll also provide a lot of shear strength so that the wall won't collapse and fall over, all right? 1 1/4 nail in a material that's 1/2 inch thick, 7/16, but we'll call it half, means that I need to have 3/4 of an inch inside the stud. All right, so 3/4 plus half, perfect. We're gonna be just fine with that. 5 nails for every length, okay? And you can see that right now the aspenite is overhanging just a little bit here. And that's fine because once we get the walls up, we're gonna put a double top plate on. And we're gonna have them crossed over to add extra rigidity and tighten the building together. It's just an extra set of hands for when you're working alone. When I lean my wall, it can't fall off the other side, okay? And that really helps a lot. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set up a brace. All right. Make it nice and tight, back it up a couple of threads while pulling on it. Now it's hinged, okay? So here we go. Now when you're working alone, you'll be able to lift your own walls into place. All right, here we go. Oh, we'll try that again. All right. Whoops. Didn't account for anything. That was just stupid. Okay. And now we've got the right depth. Did I just do that too? Okay. I'm having one of those days, Maddie. Now I'm set up for success. Now all I'm doing is making this perfectly flush. In the corner. Adding a brace. Okay. And it's not going to go anywhere. All right. Now, we're screwing through this plate on a bit of an angle because remember we have a double rim. So we have 3 inches of lumber here. And I want to put this screw into the rim. All right. I'm going to put 1 for every stud. All right. There we have it. First wall of the shed. Now my son's gonna build the other one, exactly the same size. I've got a 10-foot wall there and a 10-foot wall here. I'm not gonna build those in 2 sections. That'd be crazy. Now we got our 2 panels that are 8 feet wide, right? 8 feet tall. So that is the total outside perimeter. We're now going to measure, coming forward. We have 116 left on our total dimension. But we want to take 3.5 off of that because I want to bring this wall up short, because if I've got a 2x4 here of this wall, and just like the one in the back, then I can actually cap all of these things with one 2x4 by 10 foot. That'll tie that wall to this wall with one piece of lumber. So think then from the beginning. We're gonna go a little bit short, so that's 112.5, right? Beautiful. And that's because we've got the skin on our 2x4s. We got it flush off the end. The goal here is to frame this up, flush off the rim, so that we can install vinyl siding. Now I know some of you weren't very excited about the idea of us using vinyl siding to finish off the shed. But at the end of the day, we're trying to keep it simple. It's a quick build. It'll be waterproof. It'll be pretty. Yeah, it's just a little on the cheap side, I know. Every time I use vinyl, the whole world screams, should have used cement fiberboard. I'm like, well, there goes the budget. All right. When you got a twisted board, you're gonna lose that battle every time if you don't use the nail, the screw. All right?
Oh, I see.
And you wanna get nice and low. It's still not gonna be perfect, but a nail doesn't have the thread, so it's gonna pull out when you twist a nail down the other side, okay? But if it's twisted and you start nailing it all you're gonna do is weaken the whole structure. Right? There we go. I need a few more screws. Wow.
Oh, I got you.
You got some money?
I think so.
Handy. Yeah, I'm not wearing a pouch. Thank you, sir. We'll close this one up. And then, there you go. You can hit that one for me. Pop the head in on that last nail. And then we're good. Okay. Yeah, not hard. If you hit it too hard, you're just gonna fire something else off, eh?
Lose the hammer.
There we go. All right. All right. Let's get the drill.
Yeah.
I'm not skidding the last 3 walls, okay? Gonna save a couple $100 on the shed build, and that's the goal. Remember, if we need to keep the weather out, we don't need to build this like Fort Knox. If you live in an area concerned about safety and you want to put a skin on it, go right ahead. But the truth is, in order to have enough structure, all I need is a 2x4 on a corner brace nailed on the inside, and that'll give me all the structure I need. Now, when you're doing this, getting close is good enough, okay? Because siding has a wonderful ability to make it up for adjustments if you got gaps or little bumps or ridges or valleys. All right, let's get a few more in the plate, and then you can actually tie this outside corner together with the screws. Make sure when you put a screw in, you close the gap between the wood. Okay, because if you start and you don't close the gap, you'll never close the gap. And the reason we're using screws, of course, again, is if we make a mistake, and it's most likely you might, you can always go back, throw the level on, take out all the screws, fix your corner, and you're gonna be just fine. If you use the power nailer, you're in for a whole lot of fight to fix your problems, eh? All right. Hold on, this board is so warped. Let's deal with one corner at a time.
I got it.
Okay. And I'm gonna drive here. That's actually not bad at all. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Because we're going with siding, we're gonna be setting our starter strip to a place where our siding and our house wrap is gonna come right past this corner, okay? So our nailing strip will be around here. Now, whenever you put on a nailing strip, it sits like this off the wall. And the siding has its own texture. So little variances like a little piece of wood sticking out or the curve of the wood or a bow on the bottom, doesn't matter, right? Anything within a half an inch of the bundle is gonna be absorbed into the look of the vinyl siding and is gonna be of no consequence. So do not turn your rough framing into a finished carpentry job. It'll drive you crazy, all right? Just know what you're dealing with, what the mercy tolerance is on that product. Wow, you really, let me in a bit. Oh, I had it on reverse. Imagine that. Ah, thank you. That looks good. Now we'll tie the corner together on the outside. Again, we're going to use screws. And this gives us lots of flexibility moving forward on the job. If I want to pull that corner out a little bit, I can. Oh, come on, honey. Every time it's awkward, the screw's got too much paint in it. So we're just going to draw this out so you know the plan, because we have a 16-foot panel. And like in the back, we did it in 2 panels, but in the front, we're going to do it in 3. Here's why. We've got a door, okay? That is a 36-inch door. But when you include the framing, it's actually 38, okay? So that's the hole that I need, 38-inch. And then we're going to have a jack stud on each side, and then on the king stud on each side as well, all right? And we're going to build a header. So we'll make this one section of wall. Make sense? Now, on the other section, we're going to have a rectangular window on each side. We're going to put rectangular windows near the top on each side to bring in the light. But what that does is it gives you all 4 walls inside your shed to set up benches, workstations, store tools. That way we can have the light and have all this usable space. If I put the window in the middle of the wall like a double hung, all of a sudden that section of wall on both sides of the door become kind of useless, right? It's kind of like when you're in an old house and the kitchen windows were going down to 2 feet from the ground, and they bring cabinets to the window and then they put another piece of cabinet in between the windows. Your kitchen's only half the size. So this is what we're doing to incorporate that. 16 feet, sorry, at 12 inches is 184 inches. Minus 38, 3, 6, 44 gives me 140 inches. Cut that in half. Each side here is 70 inches. Boom. Now we need top and bottom plates at 70 inches. We'll assemble this left to right. Hopefully the math adds up. Okay, so thank you, Matt. That's a perfect 70. So we're gonna mark our center line here, 35. And I'm gonna do this in markers so it's easier for you guys to see. Now, I have a window. It's available off the shelf at Home Depot, and it is an 18 by 20. But when you measure them, if my memory serves me correctly, that's the outside dimension of the outside flange, okay? So the window actually has a jamb, and then it has a 1-inch overhang, like that. So what I want to do is I want to frame to here and make that hole really nice. I'm gonna go 18. So I'm gonna set my 9 right there, I'm gonna right there, I'm gonna right there, okay? Here's the studs. We're gonna go top to bottom on these studs for framing of our windows, all right? Of course, we need one over here. Of course, we need one over here. And you know what? We're just gonna split the difference here. And we're gonna put one at 14. Okay, this is less than the 16 on center, but it'll get the job done. All right, there we go. This is kind of like the bark side of the tree. And so look at the gap underneath the stud here. All right, so I was standing over there, I saw that the bottom was actually perfect, but here it's actually been kind of peeled off. So we'll keep that nice and flush, throw one more nail into it, and then we'll take a scrap block and scab it onto the front so that our nailing surface for our siding stays flush, okay? My window is a 20 by 30, and I'm putting it in horizontally, but I'm marked it in vertically like an idiot, because it's like, how many windows do you put in horizontally in your life? At least now we get to establish how high we want it. I'm gonna have you grab the skill saw, Matt, and we're gonna roll this up. I want an 18-inch space. I'm gonna come down 28 inches off the top, okay? There. We're gonna reframe on the fly, all right? And so, what I'm gonna get you to do is, while it's sitting like this, put a cut line in it, and then we'll roll it, and then you can finish the cut, all right? Here we go. My hole, I wanted it at 18. Plus 1.5 inches for the other header. Whoops, my bad. Cut that line. Okay, same thing. It's always easier to come across the top and not have to bend the tape. 38 3/4 twice. So what we're gonna do, Matt, is once we get the windows in, I'll throw in a little back framing once I get them positioned, all right? And because I don't have my windows on me, decide I might as well just go with screws here in case I have to make even more changes. Let's do it. I'm gonna start from over here. Goes to the outside corner. Right, can you push that, your top out? Right there, hold on, let me back it up. All right, there we go. That looks pretty darn good to me. Okay, now we build the inside wall. We're gonna measure off the base plate. So what we're gonna do is actually, once we've got this rolled into place and everything is squared and tightened and screwed together, we'll cut the bottom plate out. So that becomes part of the height of the door. And we wanted to go right to 7 feet. And in this case, that leaves me room for a 2x10 header. I don't have any 2x10s on me. But in this kind of a scenario, remember, you're looking to transfer load, and it's only gonna pick up 2 rafters at most. So anything under 5 feet, you can use a 2x6 header. Okay, if it's bigger than 5 feet, you gotta go to 2x8. What I'm gonna do, instead of cheating, and you can here, okay, you can cheat. We can totally just go 2 pieces of 2x6. We do them vertical, we nail them together, go over the jack studs. In a lot of construction, that's thinner than the wall. So what we do is we laminate a 1/2 inch piece of plywood in there as well, so it's the same thickness. It just makes it easier if you're gonna do any finishing work or installing boards. We're gonna show you how to do a proper header. Why the heck not? I got some scrap plywood. So we'll just go through the process for you, real simple. Just gonna grab some plywood, Matt, I'll be right back. So this header, it's 2x6 plus 1/2 inch plywood plus 2x6. But you don't want your plywood to be in the way. So overhang it 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. Make your mark. Okay? Trace that out. Mark the end and then cut it short on purpose. Remember, the purpose of this filler is to create the right thickness of the total assembly of the wall. So you get to 3.5 inches, which is the same as the width of a 2x4. It does provide a little bit of strength, but the purpose of it is just to beef it out. So always cut it a little bit small in both dimensions. Just make your life simple. Here we go. Now, take a look at your 2x6s or 8s or 10s. Usually they come bowed, okay? So, place that bow on top of, yeah, there you go. All right? And then the first thing you want to do is, instead of nailing this, you want to screw this. This is a great time for some clamps, especially when you're dealing with dimensional lumber that's a little bit warped, okay? You want to be able to make sure you're somewhat flush. Ah. That looks really good. All right. Give me some screws, like the top and bottoms. All right, let's get all that driven together. And you do it from both sides, okay? Yeah, and you need to bury it so that you're squeezing all these layers together. There you go. Okay?
You want 4 sets of 2? Or 3
Yeah,
sets of 2?
well, 4 is probably better. That stuff's a little warped. If it's not so warped, it's not so bad. But make sure you get the screws right near the top and bottom, yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Throw that sucker on top. Nail it in on both ends.
So I have to double it up on both sides?
No, you're going all the way through because you're burying your heads.
Oh, okay.
I'm not worried about it.
All right.
All right, so you really want to get 2 in here and 2 in the bottom piece on both sides. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. It's almost time to bring a ladder out here.
Almost.
Shimmy to you on the top. Okay, sure. Here we go. So, okay, you got it. All right, now, here's a really important key. This is getting cut out, all right? So for temporarily, we're gonna put a screw in it. Just keep it away from this joint where you're gonna put your saw blade. If things get dirty and you lose track of that, yeah, it'll wreck your day. All right, now we're anchored. Beautiful. We got one more section to build, but before we do that, I want to get some support on this. Okay, so I want to tie this stud together with this one from the inside into that king. And I'm going to go get a ladder because we have 2 extra 2x10s, and I'm going to put those braces where these 2 walls meet across the middle to keep everything from bowing and to establish a nice strong joint here for our door, okay? Okay. So we're going to put a 2x10 there, but we can also put one here on this joint. There's a weak spot in the frame now.
Yeah.
And we can put one here on the weak spot. Yeah, that's it. Flush there and half on each and get 2 screws on it. And this becomes like a collar tie of sorts. There you go. That's one of the advantages, Matt, of organizing your wood, because I was able to go, okay, that's crap. It's got a big split. I can't use that on a top or bottom plate, but it makes a great collar tie, right? So then we don't have to go shopping again. All right, now we're building the last piece of wall. Same as the first piece. Life is good. All right, guys, it's next day. You know, as a DIYer, what you're gonna find is that you don't have systems for everything that you're doing. And so you generally need your wits about you to be successful. And yesterday afternoon in the sun, that was not the case. So what we got is, let's just take a look at this. Obviously, I drive in this morning, I'm like, holy cow, what was I thinking? I've got a lovely header over here, right? That looks sort of good. Truth be told, that header comes to 10.25 inches. Yeah. So, generally speaking, what people will do is they'll use a 2x8 and another 2x4 underneath to create that header. And that's fine. And so we can show that demonstration in the next one as well. Yeah, gonna make it down to 8 and 10 1/4. This situation right here is kind of like reminiscent of how they used to build back in the 1900s to 1920s, okay? But over time, over the 100 years, what we noticed is that this would start to get a bit of a bow, okay? So there's a lot of houses out there that are really old that have got the framing compressed with the jamb of the window, putting pressure on the glass, and then the glass will crack. So this is not a long-term solution. It won't last 100 years, but it's a shed. So we're gonna double up this plate so it actually more strength to transfer load, and that'll help. I also went and bought one of the windows, and I had the measurement wrong. That's my window size. So you'll see that if I'm resting it down on this bottom plate, I've got a significant gap here. So I do have opportunity to stick this double plate on, and we'll do that right now. Making sure that when I'm nailing, I'm not going where the stud is, going right next to it. We're gonna build a couple of braces along the side so that when we do our facade, we've got something there to put the material into, and that's fine. And then we're ready to stick the window in. Above this door over here, though, it's a little bit different. Now, we didn't complete this section yet. In order for a header to work, it has to carry the load. And there's nothing above this header directing the load down to it. So we're gonna put in blocks. Here, 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 and here. That's 4 points of contact. We'll double the plate again. And now all that load will transfer to this and then transfer over to the jack stud, okay? And that'll be perfect. And now when we build the next section, we're going to use this height off the deck as our constant so that both windows are in the same position when we're finished, all right? And then we'll build another header similar like this style with the blocks above the top. The only other thing that we made a mistake on was this here. This little, we're gonna call it a collar tie for the sake of a name. It's exactly 10 feet long. Our deck is exactly 10 feet wide, but the aspenite on that back wall is flush with the deck. So the true dimension that this needs to be is 9 foot, 11.5 inches. So we're gonna take out the screws, because we use screws, right? Yes, thank God. And then we're gonna trim this back 1/2 inch and then reset this wall, because right now that extra 1/2 inch is pushing the front wall out a little bit. We don't want that. Now 1/2 inch, yeah? There you go, sweet. Now you can knock the block out of the way. Now you can screw that back on. So now flush on the outside takes us to perfectly level. Now we've got all of our modifications taken care of. And the only thing I'm not liking here, Matt, is when this was all nailed together. There's gaps here. I'd like to get a couple of screws in here. When the lumber comes really twisted, you gotta screw your gap shut or they're gonna stay twisted and open and then nothing's gonna be square. Installation of the door will be a nightmare. Try to take care of all the problems before they're becoming a problem. And yeah, like if you look through 2 pieces of wood and you can see daylight, you gotta add some screws. All right, guys, so now for the last section, we're just gonna measure bottom plate right to the edge of this stud, which is 78 1/4, okay? We're gonna do top and bottom exactly the same. When you're building, as long as your top and bottom plates are exactly the same size, you can put all your panels together and you're gonna end up pretty darn close to square. And when I say that, that's perfect. Close is perfect in framing, okay? Don't be too hard on yourselves. Now, I know a lot of you guys might be asking, hey, Jeff, you didn't frame your anything on 16 on center across the front. How in the world are you gonna put your sheet goods on there? Secret weapon, I'm not, okay? This is an affordable, simple shed. What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually just put bracing on the inside. We're gonna add Vinyl siding. Vinyl siding doesn't need frame 16 on center. It just needs framing every so often. So knowing that, it makes this project simple. So you can break this down into adjustable pieces that can be built one at a time, and you can get a great result, and you can do it all by yourself. So we've got a stud here that's got a nice warp to it. So what you do is first you go buy one of these hammers, okay? DeWalt has the claw, S20 has a claw, and you're gonna wanna put your nail near the bottom, right? And then we can rotate that into position. So go ahead, Matt. Give that a shot.
So you want to shoot the bottom one in?
Shoot the bottom.
Okay.
Then you put your claw on here, and look at all the leverage, one hand. And now you can throw an extra nail or two in there. Okay, so if you push it just a little past where you want it, throw in a nail, it'll all settle right in position. That is how you fix crooked wood. I got 4 nails on each side. That transfers load really, really nicely, okay? And because there's no second story, there's no real live load other than the roof itself, and then a little snow load in the wintertime. That transfer is gonna be in the thousands of pounds, so it's not an issue. Now all we gotta do, set this one in the same height. Before we nail that, what in the world, eh? Oh, that's right, this one goes on that side of the line. Okay, remember the line and I put that there? Now I've got a little bit of room. Okay, so I can maneuver that properly. Here we go, you can nail that now. Oh. If you did nothing but framing carpentry every day of your life, you'll have systems in place. But as a DIYer, you don't. So take one step at a time. Measure over and over again. You know, use your windows, use your doors. Think through your process one step at a time. Because when you're working out in the sun, you go from genius to grade 2 stupid in about 20 minutes. Well, let me say we stand this up and see how she looks.
Sure. Okay.
Now we're gonna go in front of the other side wall. All right, so just walk it right over here. I'll extend past the door and then watch the top, bring it all the way over in front and go wide on purpose.
I got it.
There we go. She's just catching nails on the floor. All right. So first thing we're gonna do, grab a hammer and a nailer. I'm gonna hammer it in. And we'll drop a nail in the corner. Perfect. Right here. Beautiful. There. Let's go with, yeah, that's a really nice stud. Okay, hold on. We're gonna use screws up there, okay? Let's hit this triple here. All right, there we go. Now it's not falling over. All right, and we're just gonna level off and flush this corner. All right, that'll hold it all for now. We'll get a little more stability in this in a minute. All right, guys, so we got a triple here. The double is existing. This piece, we're trying to connect these top plates together, all right? And at the same time, we have this incredible issue. You can see the daylight. That's pretty close. I'm thinking set that at the top, okay? And compress those studs together. Right on the plate. Yeah, if you do it on the plate, it'll guarantee it's straight. If the studs are out a little bit, that's one thing, but if the plates are out, that's another. The plates being connected are more important than the studs being in the right place because the plates are gonna affect the roof rafters. So we wanna try to keep that straight. Now we got the wall straight, we wanna get rid of this gap. The best way to do it is with a 3-inch screw, going straight in, not on an angle, okay? One on each side. And the idea is you screw in the close side first, because it's the easiest. You close that gap, and you screw that screw until it closes the gap, even if the head goes into the wood a 1/2 inch, okay? You gotta close the gap. Then you can do the other side. Okay, you got it. Now it's touching. Now when you close the other side, it's gonna need more force.
Yep.
So you might want to almost reach over and hold it. Oh, your drill's short enough. Okay, good. Now drive it until it closes. There you go. There you go. There you go. You got it. Now you can drive the one on top even more and see if it closes up more. Okay, we got it. That's about as far as we're gonna go. Grab that other 10-foot 2x4 mat. We still have that, I hope, right? Yes. Take a 1/2 inch off of that one, and we'll do the same thing at this triple. Come across again. All right? Okay, that's plenty. Now all we want to do is make sure that we nail in here. We got this one. Get one near the top there to pull that corner together. Beautiful, we're in good shape here. So before we get the rest of the top plates in though, what I want to do is I want to get a couple of cross braces inside the wall, okay? Now, this is important for you guys at home. We've got our windows positioned so that if you want, you can modify. You can put bench here, you can put bench down the side. You can do anything you want to do with this space because your window isn't interrupting the space, right? So this can become a work table. What we do want to do is we want to get a cross piece that goes from here right down towards that door. And we want to nail it to the studs that create that rigidity so the wall can't move like this. Because right now, it can still rock back and forth. And when I do that, the back wall of the Aspenite doesn't move at all because it's sheeted with that sheet good. But out here, we're not going to spend the money on that. We're going to use a $5 piece of 2x4 to create that rigidity. Problem solved.
Yep.
All right? Then what we're doing is we're actually, yeah, I told you, not bad, eh? We're leveling left to right here. So you can start off by, let's keep a gap over here so we got some room. Throw me a couple of nails in the bottom of that end of the plate. There we go, okay? Now you can hold the level on that.
Right there.
Just for a demonstration, I want you to stand over there.
Okay.
On the outside corner,
Yep.
then try to push it back and forth this way. Yeah, that's not tied together yet. Okay. Grab this wall. It's not going anywhere, is it?
No.
We want to brace them from the inside so we can get our exterior braces off. That's what's holding it in level right now. But once we take the outside off so that we can do our facade, we want to have the interior braces in place. If you're building your shed and you're going to design benches and stuff tied up against the wall and you don't have an interior brace, then you have to use the sheet on the outside. That'll give you the stability that you want without the interference of the wood in front. Okay? Here we go. Now that one's already braced, so you can just throw it in the corner.
The bubble needs to go to the left. All right, that's good.
All right. Never hesitate. If you hesitate, you die. Here we go.
Is that a movie quote?
Yes, sir. Let's get one more over here. Let me know when it's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. We're officially tied in. That means all we gotta do is measure the rest of the top plates as an infill.
Yep.
Throw another 10-foot brace minus a 1/2 inch from here to here. All right, guys, that's the last section for framing your walls, getting in the rest of your top plate. Once you got your corners tied together, you gotta fill in the rest of the spaces. Remember, you don't have to frame this like a finished carpenter. You wanna do this like a framing carpenter. Give yourself a little bit of space when you need it. If it has a little wiggle room, it's okay, because the way this works is every one of these rafters comes down and needs to have solid contact. There's a little gap, it ain't gonna change the integrity of the structure. All right, guys, so there's basically 3 kinds of roofs out there. One is a single slope, did another one with a metal roof. Today we're gonna do a ridge beam. The third kind is truss, and that is a prefabricated roofing system that you just set on top. Now, we're gonna do the ridge beam because it's really convenient and it gives you a lot of flexibility, right? Because you can change the position of the ridge, move it forward or backwards, and have 2 different sized slope if you want. Today we're gonna try to go right down the middle. And in order to do that, we're gonna measure to 5 feet. Remember, this shed is 10 by 16. So we wanna just double check our side. Here we go. We are just a hair off with this double plate, no big deal. This is now my center line, okay? Now, the basic concept of a ridge, guys, is we're gonna have a piece of wood up here, all right? And then we have wood coming from each side, going all the way to the other side of the shed. But what we've got to do is we got to find out what this slope, this angle is going to be, all right? We don't know what the angle is going to be yet. So first thing we're going to do is identify the maximum height that this thing can be. In order to make sure I don't run into compliance issues with the building inspector, got to make sure that the top of my roof is 24 or less, okay? So I'm going to have a 2x6. I'm going to have plywood. It's going to peak. So I want to make sure that I got 5/8 plus another inch. So I'm going to just account for 2 inches of extra buildup on here just to make sure that I'm going to be okay. 2x6 is 5.5 inches. Minus 2 is 3.5. 24. 7.5 from 24. All right. So if that's my height, I need 2 inches for all the buildup. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 inches. There's the bottom. So now I've got that marked. We're going to count that as 16.5 inches. We're going to put a post here on the outside of the other end. 16.5 inches. This sounds like a lot of work, but it's actually pretty straightforward. We're going to temporarily install this block right here to set our ridge beam on. All right? So we're using the same dimensional number. I just measured 21 inches to the top, so it's very similar to the other side. I've got my center mark here, I got my center mark here, and that is my flush. And we're gonna throw a screw in that. All right, now we're gonna throw a level on it. Matt can screw down the bottom. While he's doing that, I'm gonna mark the same height, my 16.5 line. That's where my 2x6 rim comes. We're using screws for all of these stages because screws can be adjusted. Really important that we get this as perfectly level as possible. So we're gonna get the rim in place, get up here with the level, try to see if we need to make any adjustments. Now we need that 16-foot board. Okay, here's my center line. Lumber is 1.5 inches, so that's 3/4 on each side. So I need my outside line. And because I'm gonna be on the wrong side of that beam, I wanna mark it over here as well. Okay? Here we go. Now we know exactly where this is supposed to land. All right? All right? There we go. So I'm in position. Okay. Just pull it out a little bit and make it fit. Because we use the braces on the bottom, it makes it nice and compressed. Okay, hold it. Okay, there you go. Now you gotta grab the level, throw it up here, and let's see if this sucker needs to be adjusted. Very important when you're using a level that your eyes are right in front of it. You're not looking up or down or from the side. Okay, so we are a hair off. So we both have the same measurement, but we're a little out on the level. Part of that might be a slight curve in the wood, okay? The thing here is, if I make the ridge perfect, and there's different heights from the plate, then every one of my rafters is going to be at a different depth off the wall. So I would rather be a hair out on level than start adjusting it to be perfect to make the whole roof kind of go like this to flat at the end, okay? So be careful with that. Remember, when you're building, start with level, and it makes everything a lot easier. But apparently, our platform is just a little bit out of level here. Not a big deal.
It's not the end of the world. I mean,
not the end of the world.
Notice a 1/2 inch level over 16 feet.
So I'm taking this block off, cutting it down here now, throwing that in to help support the weight, okay? One screw carries 80 pounds. That's plenty for now. It's just temporary bracing. And actually gonna be in my way. What was I thinking? There we go. That's better. Now, we're gonna show you how to do this. Take that 2x4, Matty.
Yep.
Here's the plan. We're gonna set it on the far side on our double plate. We're gonna bring it over here to about the height that it's gonna end up, okay? Right here. Right. We'll hold that there. Now, we're just gonna set a piece of wood, flush here, draw that line. All right, here we go, guys. This is the line that we translated, okay? So what we're gonna do is line this up. Now I'm eyeballing it, one eye here, okay? I wanna see this black line here touching my edge of my saw, and this black line touching the edge of the saw here. And when I get that lined up just the way I want it, I'm gonna lock it in. We're gonna do a test cut. We're gonna see how close we are. Okay, and that's how I can tell. Now, I know I'm wider here than here, all right? So we're gonna take the lock off. We're gonna go just another quarter degree here, lock it again. Cut it a little closer. Okay, still not there. Let's go to another degree. Yeah, now I don't know about you, but I'm loving that. Now the purpose of the line is not where I'm cutting. Remember, I've only got to go about 6.5 feet maybe, okay? So the purpose of this line is to establish the cut line. Now we know we're cutting 18 degrees all day long, okay? I'm even gonna write that over here, because that's my cut. For the top of all my rafters, at the bottom of all my rafters, where my tail is, my extension, all of my cuts are gonna be at 18 degrees. So that's why this is gonna be locked here. I'm even gonna put a little marked, okay? Now, we're just gonna cut one time through. Now I'm gonna go take this back up, all right? We're gonna set it in place, put it up against the rim, and then we're gonna mark where the overhang is to the perfect dimension for my design. We're gonna explain our choices on the design in a second. So what we're doing here is this. Here's our edge of our building, okay? We gotta know our end from our beginning, so we gotta think about our assembly. Now, I'm gonna be wrapping this in Tyvek, which has a 1 millimeter thickness, maybe 2, all right? But then we're also gonna be adding, our finish clad is gonna be vinyl siding. And generally speaking, the J trim that goes on vinyl siding, this width here is going to be about 1 inch. Now, because we're gonna have an outside corner, we need to have at least 1 inch of here. And if I cut that with that same 18 degrees, okay, then I can add a fascia board across the front. So if I can put a 1x5 on there, then my fascia will actually hang below here. My siding will come up underneath it, and I don't have to do any soffit work. Remember, the way we're building this roof is not to let fresh air in, so we don't need soffits. So you have an aesthetic choice. If you want to put in soffit, you can cut it way down here, and then you can bring a piece of wood back, and then you can add soffit. But if you like to be cheap and get maintenance free, then what we're gonna do is have this on vinyl. Our fascia board will be PVC. We won't ever have to do any painting. So here's my mark. That is plenty. 1 inch over, yeah. So I'm gonna cut my 18 degrees off this point, and then I'm going to create a template. We're gonna get the length of that, and then we're gonna cut all of our rafters at once so we can install the entire building. All right, now because I measured my angle on the inside of the roof, and now I'm on the outside of the roof, my angle's in the other direction. But the saw has the mirror image of your angle. So take this over, set it to 18, make contact right at this point. Okay, and I have to use the saw nice and slow because we're using a lighter gauge wire for the extension power. So she's only running on 30%. Now I'm gonna go up and confirm this on all 4 corners, okay? Well, here we go. Matt, can you hold that flush there? All right. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this measurement. Now this becomes the nailing or screwing surface of my facade. You see how it hangs down? I got room for my siding underneath here with no more additional help. I'm gonna just go like this, okay? Mark that tip. I'm gonna try it on all 4 corners and make sure that it's in the same position. I'm also gonna do it this line here so we can have a visual. All right. All right, we're just gonna come out here, make that flush at the top. I'm not taking into account the fact that our double plate, we have sheathing on the backside, right? So I'm gonna have to make this board an extra 1/2 inch longer on the backside to cover past the sheathing. We were measuring off the top of our double plate, this point right here, but our sheathing is here. That's gonna extend my corner on my vinyl 1/2 inch back. So this is a perfect dimension for the front, but on the backside, we're gonna have to make them all another 1/2 inch longer to compensate for the thickness of that sheathing. All right, so that works here. Try that one on that front there. Make sure that the rim is in the right place, because we're not just confirming that the rafters are good, we're confirming the position of this as well. Yeah, there you go. How's that look? Perfect. All right, now it's production time. So we're gonna cut a bunch of those, mark out the joists for the rafter location and the plates, okay? All right, here we go, red square. Okay, I'm gonna keep tension on it so it doesn't pop off. I'm on a wheeled cart here so I can go all the way down. One run. This one here is specifically at 8 feet, okay? So this one, I'm gonna mark it center. And I'll show you why when we go to put the skin on. The plywood want to meet in the middle of that rafter, okay? There we are. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And of course, the one in the end. There we go. Get my X's on here. What this is gonna do, it's gonna allow you to use one full sheet of goods here, which is 8 feet long, and then another full sheet of goods to put the roof on. All right, so we're gonna pop in a bunch of rafters here now. We're gonna go through a system, but we're gonna lay out, first of all, if you're working alone, how to do it, the right and the wrong way. And then we'll show you if it's a 2-person operation, it changes everything. First of all, Matt, why don't you just demonstrate throwing the first one on by yourself, okay? Using the nail gun. Okay, the idea here, guys, is you want to get a nail coming in here and here, okay? So you're coming down about 1.25 inches and then another 1.25 inches. So that the contact is coming through the bulk of the wood. If you start too high on the other side, the nail will be sticking out on this side, and that would be bad. Now, that's if you're holding it right. Show them what happens if you're not holding it right with the nail gun. Okay? If you don't have a good squeeze, you'll get gappage, all right? So then what you gotta do to fix that is use a screw. Oh, it's got the clip on. Nice belt you got there.
Thanks, man.
That's pretty handy.
Yeah.
All right. So if you go in one nail in weak, and what kind of screw are you using there?
It's a 3-inch
Decking screw? Okay, those are lousy for shear strength, so use that in the middle and then add another nail. You can't use deck screws for structural lumber, okay? They have really weak structural strength, okay? And in our climate, especially here with the roof, because it's carrying the live load, it's also carrying snow load, you want to use metal fasteners. So you can hit that again. All right, now, we're gonna just leave the rafters floating for now, except for where we'll have the brackets. Consider the first fastener being the screw gun, because then you can confirm you have the location, you're happy about everything. Using the screw gun, it gives you a nice pull and it holds it in place while you're driving your nails, okay? That gives you flexibility too, because then if you have made a mistake or something slipped while you're tying it together, you can just back it out and do it again. All right.
So am I doing 2 nails too?
Yes.
2 nails.
Okay. Remember we talked about, we've got a determined 1.25 inch overhang here. Okay. Nice, that's perfect. And what I can do is, as I'm coming along, I can measure my 1.25 inches every time before I attach my rafters. Now, in the wrong screw bit here. What I'm gonna do here is I'm using hurricane ties. I've measured across where the location of the rafters go the same as the top. And I can use hurricane ties to tie this all together. Now, if you got questions about the system, throw it in the comments, okay? I know it's not traditional, but it's just a shed. So as long as we remind ourselves, it's just a shed. It's just a shed, you know? It'll be okay. All right, let's get some more of these going. So there's half the roof. Now I'm gonna go and dip all of the, brain's not working. I'm gonna go cut the rafters for the other side now so we can get our support all sorted out. Then we gotta put in a few cross pieces. We gotta do all our blocking. And then we're gonna have a roof that's totally supported, right? I'm good here. I know my measurement's 63 3/4. That's down here. Checking this wood for the same thing as well, all right? Don't wanna be playing with knots. If you got one, cut it away. Make sure you're taking the piece of the board that works best for you. That's really the whole secret. Listen to your saw when it's cutting, especially right now. I'm on a smaller gauge wire bringing the power to it. If it's working too hard, the wood could be too wet. You could be going through a knot. If you hear it screaming, slow down, be relaxed. It's not a race, all right? And let the blade do the work. But if it starts to scream, it means you're trying to push too hard. You're gonna wreck your motor. What I'm doing is I'm putting these in the same location as these, okay, on the other side. And because I've got a 3 1/4 inch nail, I'm actually going to be, only the mirror image, driving my nails right next to this, but on an angle, so it goes through the rim and then picks up the middle of this piece of wood. So I'm working by sight here. I've got my mark going flush off the top. Grab my nailer. I'm gonna drive my nail here, but on an angle, so it'll cross through and then into the rafter on the other side in the middle. Keeping my hands clear. There we go. Solid as a rock. Now, because the weather's coming, I wanna get 2 of these installed. Screw down the other side. That'll kind of hold this together in the wind. Looks like I got about 20, 25 minutes before the storm hits, so I gotta pack up all my gear and all my tools again. And we'll try again another day to finish this off. Yeah, all right, guys. That's enough for me today. I'm loving it. Well, it's been a couple of days. We've been through a massive rainstorm. Had some really decent flooding in town. Let's just go through a couple more of these framing details that are part of the roof. One of them is this piece right here. This is a 10-foot 2x4. Goes right from the face of this wall to the other side. We're tying it all together in a triangle pattern to the, no. There we go. Now the rafter and this brace are tied together, it becomes a truss, okay? And what that is it's this ability, no matter how much weight you put down on the top, it can't bend the building out because this, okay, holds it together. So now you've got one complete triangle strong structure and that's gonna be all tied together. I'm gonna get Matt to come up here and do the rest of the blocking. We wanna have no air coming in here except through the vent that we're gonna install. All right.
We're blocking. Basically, once we have our roof on, there's gonna be a hole going up here, and we don't want rodents and stuff getting into the building, into the structure.
Right.
So we're simply going to put blocks in between each truss, so that once our plywood is on, there's no possible way that the things can get in.
Be free, baby.
Yep. What I was doing yesterday, I guess, was putting 3 nails along the front side and then toe nailing on either end, Jeff pointed out that this is not a structural portion of the structure, so that's useless and it's a waste of nails. But I'm gonna do it anyway just because I guess
now you're in rhythm.
That's how I was doing it. Yeah, I'm gonna get roasted by all the framers, but that's okay. So yeah, I'm gonna start by toenailing it because I want it to be flush with our top plates here. So just toenail the thing. Bang. Bang. And then 1, 2, 3. I hammer in the nails after just for, I guess, continuity purposes, and there you go. There's a block. If I did it wrong, let me know. If I can do it better, let me know.
Here you go, bud.
Thanks, man. Oh, Jesus, okay. So now we're gonna do this one here.
Last step before we can remove our temporary bracing is we have to do the blocking on the gable end. It's as simple as measuring from the top down so that our block transfers load directly from the rafter to the stud, okay? Now, these are offcuts, so the angle's already perfect for the roof. And it doesn't really matter how perfect this is, it's just a nailing surface for our siding later. And as long as I'm within a few inches of the stud, I'm fine. There you go. Toenail, toenail, off we go. Okay. And then, well, timber. Okay, that's out of the way. It's a fresh air intake vent. This is passive. There's no motor, there's no nothing. But because the wind comes from across that field almost every day, this is a great way to get air circulation in the shed, okay? So, eventually we'll be putting it right here, all right? The challenge is, I need to actually attach it to something. Okay, so I'm gonna add some blocking. So I've got a nailing surface, okay? All right.
You're gonna hand it to me sideways, right?
Yeah, something like that. So, groove is your right side?
Okay, you wanna go groove down. Okay.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay, I got it.
All right. We can rotate it now on the ladders, pins.
Yep.
Okay, so there's not much friction.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
That's it. Keep going.
Yeah, I got it.
And my ladder actually will keep it from sliding out of position. All right. Okay. It's as close as you're gonna get for now, because my ladder's in the way. There we go. Very important here that we square off this roof right off the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so what I'm looking for is the bottom of this sheathing is just a hair more than my fascia. And so right now I am just almost there. I need a little, just a touch. There, okay? I need you to rotate your top corner there because we want to go perfectly flush. So what I'm going to do, because I like this position and we can rotate on it, done, okay? Now you got to make that perfect. Okay. I'm liking it. Just a hair shy on the 3/4 on that one. Right, now, the other thing I need you to look at, I need you to get over there and see what that looks like on that rafter.
Okay, we're half on.
You're good?
Yep.
All right, well, let's go for it. All right, there's no going back now. Before you go any further though, I'm gonna go confirm that from my end. Oh yeah, that's gonna work out great. Okay. My stud is just to the right of the block. There as well, there as well. And yes, they're all just to the right, okay? So go ahead. So this is what we call laminating, right? We hold things flush. We nail them together. Transferring the load one roof into one piece of wood, through the nails into the next piece of wood that is actually structured. This works perfect every time. All right, now you can go through the face of this one. Okay, so I know this is not a traditional way to sheet. We're not staggering joints and any of that kind of business. We're just trying to keep things the cost-benefit analysis, really. It's a 16-foot wide roof, 2 sheet goods is 16 feet. Kind of figured there's a good chance you're gonna have to double laminate the middle anywhere where the joint is. It happened to us, we got our measurement out a little bit. Just trying to design this system for homeowners so that you guys can be successful. That's why we're going with the 5/8 instead of the 7/16 OSB. The tongue and groove is a nice feature. It might give you a little more support, but the thickness of this, okay, is better than any roofing system out there. So it's worth to spend the extra couple bucks. Now, as far as the gap across the top, we're not gonna just rely on our shingle. I'm actually gonna use a joist tape like we would use on building decks to get a waterproof seal. I do have a membrane to put on the roof so we can make sure that all the gaps and cracks are gonna be water repellent. And then of course, we're gonna go with architectural shingle. So at the end of the day, what we're building here may not be up to the current standard. It's actually beyond. Even if it's a little sloppy, stupid, and DIY, it's gonna be a better roof than you're gonna find in a brand new house. All right, here we go. No wind. It's not gonna pull you off the roof carrying the sheet goods. I mean, just everything is going perfect here. Time to get the waterproofing membrane out, get our next layers on. We're gonna go through the whole assembly about our process for skinning this thing and getting it watertight. Let's get in the nitty-gritty. All right, so here's the tools. Wow, big investment, all right? But it'll kill your drafts and it'll keep your house dry, so it's worth it. I got a hammer stapler, okay? And like with all things, the manufacturers of these products, they're gonna have a standard. And you can see that there's these little orange squares. Generally speaking, we use house wrap over sheathing, okay? This is a shed, I'm not using sheathing. I'm just going house wrap right onto my stud frame. On the backside, it'll go on the sheathing. So I have to be careful. I wanna put a staple everywhere, one of those orange squares, all right? Now, when you read the product literature, it's gonna tell you not to use staples. It's gonna tell you to use these ring cap nails. All right, and the idea behind a ring cap nail is you hammer that in, and then in the wind, it doesn't tear off as easy. Okay, So what they want you to do is put one of these in every one of these little squares. What I'm going to teach you today is it's okay to use a staple gun. What you got to do at the end of your job is you've got to get all your joints nice and tight, all right? And you want to get your exterior sheathing tape to seal off all your edges so there's no corner for the wind to catch. That is how you're going to get your extension of your installation to last a few days until you get your siding on. All right. And you're good? All right. There we go. Now we'll come over here. There we go. This is a lot like putting in a vapor barrier, getting started. The secret here, because there's no aspenite, is to feel where the joist cavity, the stick cavity is, all right? And don't miss, or you're gonna do a lot more taping. All right. Now, this is my rafter locations. Just gonna trim that out. Now, we're dealing with wind-driven rain, okay? And the way that we're finishing off this project is actually, we're gonna have a fascia board here, and we're gonna have a U-channel for our siding, okay? And so that'll pretty much stop any water infiltration from getting up in behind. Good sharp knife takes care of the details. Around the door, which is right here, okay, that's how we want to make our entrance for now. The details about what we're going to do later are very important. For now, let's just tuck this around the corner. One staple, keep it out of your hair. So we're just going to trim this right back. I'm using my thumb to know where the edge of that stud is. And I'm just trying to cut that back as clean as I can. There we go. That's out of the way. All right. Okay, so here's the butyl tape. Type-R tape, okay? Wonderful. Now check this out. The back side has got two self-sticking sides, okay? So you can keep it all attached, measure and cut the length, unpeel one side, stick it on the face, right? Then unpeel the other side and then wrap the corner. All right, so we're gonna just get a piece here, go past, inch and a half past the top of the plate, right to the, past the top, yeah, right there. Then we're gonna go long on purpose. Now, I'm gonna intentionally go taller. This stuff is awesome for being stretchy, okay? Here we go, look at this. All right, can I have the knife? Nice. This stuff is awesome. It helps protect your wood, okay, from water infiltration. This gets you a really nice air seal because it'll actually stick to all your surfaces. You take this, okay, and with more staples. Perfect. Thank you. Now, you can use your exterior tuck tape. Blue is for areas that are going to get wet. Trust me, around your door, it's going to see some water. This bonds incredibly well to tuck tape. I'm sorry, to the Type-R. And it bonds really well to the face of that butyl tape. So now you get an extremely amazing bond. Okay, so you can get an air seal and water barrier anywhere in your house. Okay? So part of the value of having my son on the job is he does unique little things like this. He's got the learning curve going on. So he was leaning over a ladder, trying to staple the stud right here. And he missed it just by a hair. And now he's torn my barrier. So he's in there now holding a piece of wood. Right? We're gonna do, so we're just gonna tape this off while it's under pressure. It's not a real big deal. Just gotta make sure that you get a good seal. All right, now back in business. Finish over that with your cap nail. Try not to sink the head too far, okay? And I'll show you the difference. Okay? Hey, it just pops right off, okay? This one, there's some substance there, so the wind won't pull it away. So just flush every foot or so. There we go. Now, you've got a house wrap that's not going anywhere, and it can withstand some serious wind, all right? So now you've got your water barrier, you've got your air barrier seal, and you've got it secured to the building where it's going to be able to maintain itself for a few weeks while you're getting all your facade finished. I want to install my front door. I want to get my vinyl J trim installed here. Then I want to bring this into the vinyl J trim so that my water barrier goes into the J trim and forced around the door exterior of the system. I don't want to ever trap water in behind my siding because all it's got to do is find a staple or find a crack or a hole or a weak spot. So this is why the relief cuts. We're going to install the door and the trims, and then we'll bring this into that J trim, and then we'll tape up all those joints as well, and make sure that our weather barrier system is not just a weather barrier, but a diversion system as well around the doors and the windows, okay? Here we go, guys. So, yeah, we're using joist tape for decks. It's a fantastic little product. We're just gonna line it out, measure it off, give or take, and then we gotta peel the backing off of this, okay? Okay, now, what I'm doing is I'm just taping my seam between my 2x4 and my sheathing. I'm just wrapping it for a good measure. In case there's ever any water under there, it always looks for the path of least resistance. This will make sure that it goes around the corner instead of underneath. There we go. My system does not involve using metal edges. My problem with it is it's aluminum. And whenever you get a lot of heat, it tends to expand, and then you get cupping between the nails, all right? And if it starts to lift a little bit, then water can find its way in, and then your sheathing is exposed. So I like to use a different system where I'm gonna have my underlayment extending a little bit past, and then my first row of shingles is gonna extend a little bit past. So in the heat of the sun, it kind of curls down a little bit, all right? And it kind of protects your wood. But because it's still exposed, and I'm gonna have a black fascia and black roof, we use the butyl tape all across the front edge as well, okay? That way everything is gonna be black and black and black, and you're not gonna see any exposed wood, and I'm not gonna encourage any kind of rotting going on there, okay? Sometimes you gotta do things a little creative, right? Like I'm not making a huge soffit overhang. It's not traditional. I'm not putting in, not even gonna put in a eaves trough. It's just a shed. We're gonna keep it simple. But I do wanna have a nice detail there because I don't wanna go from my dark siding to a black aluminum to a black roof and have that brown line sitting there. All right, so now I've got my ladder block back in place. We're gonna get on with nailing down the felt. Now we start putting a roof together. This is gonna be fun. Tar paper. This is roof paper, reinforced fiberglass. The idea here is every time there's a nail penetration, this is kind of like a self-sealing system, okay? It does, gives you grip. It also has lines on it, so it helps you to stay square when you're putting your roof on. Okay, this is usually a two-person job. Now I'm starting to regret that I don't have Matthew here. I want to get over my butyl tape. Okay. Oh, for Pete's sake. Well, I got a bee after me. Run it right off my edge here a little bit. It'll be easier to trim it later. Here we go. Okay, well guys, let's just talk about the tools that we're gonna use today for putting on our roof. Standard 1.25" roof nails, okay? These come in a coil to go in this machine. And this is awesome. I've been using this nailer since the beginning of this project, every opportunity I get. Opens up nice and simple, you run your loader in here. All right, lock and go, lock and load. Standard operating procedure today, we're gonna have a knife, and we're not using a regular Ulf knife. We're using hook blades. They're snap-off hook blades. These are amazing because they give you the ability to cut your material, right? And you can run the tip of this up against the edge of your roof, and you'll know where you are, right? Helps keep your lines nice and straight. And it's a hell of a lot safer to be pulling with the hook than to be using a regular straight blade, all right? Now, I am not a roofer, in case you're wondering. I don't do roofing. Today's video is just about me doing a roofing system that'll work for a DIYer. So if you are a roofer, feel free to get in the comments, chirp a little bit, have some fun, but specifically give us proper information, okay? On the program and the process. I am gonna be following a standard installation for 5 nails per shingle. We're gonna be starting off my shingles. I'm using a 3-tab shingle in reverse, so I got a nice solid edge, create an overhang and a nice straight line. And then we're gonna go with architectural shingles after that. Probably gonna be cutting the shingles 8-inch increments so I can step it up. And that's pretty much the basics of it all. It's all about being in the right place at the right time, getting the first row or two on, being really careful not to walk off the edge of the roof, okay? That's the focus today. Just don't fall off the roof, Jeff. Like I said, first I'm starting off with 3-tab shingles. Now I picked up my roofing shingles at the Home Hardware, local building store around here. They carry just about everything. It's black on black, two-tone. Let's just take a quick look. This is architectural shingle. It's layered laminate, okay? So it's more than just one piece of roofing. Gives a lot more strength against the wind versus a traditional 3-tab shingle, which is just one ply, okay? So what we're doing here is we're gonna use the 3-tab, which is cheaper because I need a straight edge. So instead of putting it on like traditional roofing tiles, we're going backwards. Here's a great start. I'm gonna cut this stuff here. Now here's my edge. I'm intentionally making my shingle about a 1/4 inch past the edge on all these sides. I'm gonna nail it in. That's probably more than I need, but hey. When you're using the automatic tool, it's really easy to use more nails than you want. I'm also overlapping this corner here. Going flush there. Give myself another 1/4 inch overlap here. Okay. All right, always thinking overlapping, following the course of water. All right, you're starting to see the wisdom behind the pitch of the roof that I chose here, right? Never a bad idea to have a nice gentle slope. Especially as a DIYer. All right, so here we go. Shingle number 1. The hook blade cuts like butter. Just awesome. So, again, gonna go to flush, overhang about 1/8 to 1/4 in both directions. We're going to be doing a step system, okay? So I'm gonna think of it like about an 8-inch piece I'm gonna cut off. All right, and so then you can see when that one's installed, the joint's gonna be right here, okay? So what I wanna do is have a nailing pattern that never puts a nail 8 inches off the edge. That's all you really gotta consider here, all right? So, my nailing pattern is gonna be here. That's 8 inches, a little bit past it. All right? So that when I put my next sheet on, there, that's my line, okay? And I want to bring this shingle right to this edge. Boom. Again, that's going to be the 8-inch. Skip it. Want to go 5, okay? You can cut it in advance. You can cut off 8 inches, then 16, and then whatever. Or you can just, once this hang over, like a hot knife through butter here. Already I'm seeing the advantage of these lines. My shingle is lining up right on the top of this thing, on the second row, which is super handy. We'll take a look at the back of this. There's 3 glue strips here, okay? Which is amazing. So in the heat of the sun, this will adhere to the one underneath. This is my nailing strip, and then that has another glue strip. That's why this stuff is so bloody awesome. Okay. Okay. Now, I've got a line here. I'm gonna see if we can line this up, if it's gonna work. Yeah. Fantastic, that'll help keep me square. All right. Now I know all the roofers out there, you're gonna do 5, 6 layers a step. So every time you move, you're putting 5 shingles down, it's more efficient. I'm just trying to be really focused on not falling off the roof. just get my butt away from the edge, right out of the gate here. Using my offcut. Yeah, you know what? That's not as straight a line as I wish I cut. That's gonna look okay though. For a guy that doesn't do roofing, I'm finding it weird how quick you get comfortable up here. Wow. So while I got over to the corner here, to the corner of my eye, I see a nail sticking out. I'm like, whoops, not supposed to see a nail. I missed a piece. So before we go any further, we're gonna fix this. Let's take a look. So I got a nail here, and I got a shingle that's gonna go up past that point, okay? So I'm gonna get underneath the nail and try to lift that out. Son of a gun, didn't work. Ah, shit. Anyway. Well, now I need a hammer. I don't have a hammer here. Anything can be used as a hammer, okay? Just got a shingle in. And then we trim. All right. Now it's not too bad. And when it stops working, snap it off, then throw it right in the garbage bin. Or close to it. Anyway. Now, to finish it off, I'm going to use the 3-tab shingle. All right. I'll just go through this detail, and then we're going to cap it like this. Okay? Now the cap isn't big enough when I cut it into thirds to make it down to that line. So I am going to put another row of shingles on here at this point and at this point. Trim off my excess, and then I will add my cap, because it's going to look something like that when it's done. It's a crying shame, but what do you do? If there's a better option there, let me know, because I'm thinking maybe on the backside where no one's looking, I'll cheat. Maybe I'll go 60-40, get my shingle the right size here. We'll have to get the other side done first and see what the best way to finish that off is. I'll keep you updated. Hooey. All right. Good, I'm nice and sticky on here today. That's nice. Hey guys, Home RenoVision DIY here, and today we are installing a front entry door on our shed. Now here's the cool thing, we're going to use it just with the hand tools that we have and a drill and a level, and I'm going to teach Matt today how to do this, because you've installed interior doors before?
Yeah.
But exterior doors are a little different beast.
Okay.
They come all pre-drilled and mortised, and the sill on the bottom is attached, so we can't install it anything but perfectly square. What I want to do is just check for level to see if our framing is ready to receive a door. And this one's out, big surprise, and this one's out just a touch. And you know, the fascinating thing here is there's a couple of nail heads. Remember when we framed this?
Yeah.
Some of these nail heads went in on an angle and they're sticking out, all right? And believe it or not, that's gotta be fixed, because that could be the difference of square or not square, is that 1/8 of an inch, okay? So this one, this is, even without the nail heads, it's out. All right, and I can see at the bottom, I've got a gap and I want to get it closed. All right, so this is the gap that's got to be closed. all right? But this part of the plate has a nail in it, and then we added the jack afterwards. Part of the issue that we're dealing with here. Okay, so we're gonna have Matt just cut underneath, loosen up that fastener, and then we'll screw it all together.
Wait. Did I find it?
Yep, you're through.
Okay.
All right, so there's two ways to do this. We could screw from here on an angle, okay? But it's gonna be easier if I screw straight across from here. Right, that's how I screw it together. But you'll notice my studs are now misaligned. So I'm gonna show you a better way to get this done. And that's with using wood clamps. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna push the wall out and then clamp it shut first. Okay, then drive the screws together. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this one as the piece that's connected to. 2 screws on that side, and then 2 screws over here. Just because when you cut the bottom nail plate, you risk ruining the integrity of that bottom sill there. So now we're turning that into one piece of wood. Okay? Now we've got that taken care of. Let's take a look at, got any nails? When you are framing something, traditionally we give ourselves 2 extra inches. So a 36 will make a 38-inch hole. But the truth is, that only gives you a 1/4 inch of space, which is nice. But if you don't get it all square and sink your nail heads, 1/4 inch of space gets eaten up in a real hurry. All right, now let's have a look at that now, Matt. Check this again. How does that look? We're good? Yeah, it's in between the lines. And that's perfect. Love it, perfect every time. Okay, one more quick little note.
Yep.
This door jamb is 4.5 inches wide, okay? And so that's designed for a 2x4 wall that's got a facade finished on each side, plus the brick mold. Now, traditionally, exterior doors, you get a brick mold, and it runs about 1.5 inches thick, okay? So then the total thickness of the door is almost 6 inches.
Yeah.
What we're doing is a little bit different. We're gonna go flush to the inside,
Okay.
and overhang on the front. We're gonna put it flush to the inside so that our hinges are right where the wood is. So we're attaching one screw in every hinge into the framing, okay? So you go and stick that over here. Well, first, we're gonna double check how this fits. Yeah, just start at the bottom, wiggle it in, there you go. We'll stand it up in place. Okay? Now we got loads of room up top. We're making contact with this piece right here, and I got lots of room to play around, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. Don't know why they do this, guys, but check this out. Random screws with a strap. I don't, maybe it was a handle at one point for moving these things around. I don't know. Okay. Go. Get rid of all these distractions. Here we are. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get Matt to tape the bottom plate here.
And we do it the exact same way we did.
It's like a half and half thing, yeah.
So half and half.
You wanna do the lip?
You want me to ride up a little bit on
Yep.
both sides?
You got it. So the reason we want to use the tape is because you want to follow the path of water if it gets in behind all your waterproofing, water diversion system. Inevitably it will. Majority of homes in North America do not have any kind of water protection at the sill plate. And so what ends up happening is the water gets in behind the facade because a lot of them don't even have house wrap. Wind-driven rain. Just keep on going, bud. You don't have to
Yeah,
wait
I
for
have
me.
a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Do I just cut the corners here?
No, stretch it.
Stretch it?
Yeah, and then we'll throw a roofing nail in the front corners.
Cool.
Okay? Yeah. And so what happens is water gets in behind, and then we'll have an expansion foam or something there, and it'll run down the side, and it'll hit the bottom. And so the reason we put the tape there is as a diversion system to run the water either into the building so it can dry out, or outside the building so it can run away. So one of the reasons we use this tape is because when you pull the plastic back, okay, you can take the tape and you can stretch it around corners. All right? So you can make that continuous, waterproof. When you hold it in place. Okay? Done. That way we don't have a joint here that's gonna leak. All right? Nice and simple. Now, it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't have to. You just wanna have something where the water has no other option but to run in or out. Because underneath, it's trapped, and it'll sit in the wood, and that'll make whatever mold that exists in that wood to develop and grow. Now, there's other systems out there. They actually have systems that are like a full tray, right? And they've got a lip, and really, really extreme. It's not necessary to go that Mac Daddy, but basic best practice, get that corner pushed out of the way. There you go. Hold it down, throw a nail in it. Okay? And if you really want to be a stickler and you got some extra tape, you can run an extra little layer right here. And then up the side, okay? So
You can do that too?
Sure, why not? I think it's probably good practice for sheds because sheds don't have a heating system or air conditioning. And so if you get water during a season where you got high humidity, it's gonna take weeks to dry out. So it's probably best to make sure that we're not holding any water underneath that door. Okay, so here we go. So you carry the weight with the door, and I'll just direct this in place, all right? There we go. So instead of dragging it, we're gonna lift it. We'll go flush on the inside. Okay, we're gonna start off. Here we go. I got this now. We're gonna close it up. Okay. What we're looking for here is I'm making contact in the top left corner. I've got a little bit of a Matt, can you slide the whole door to your left?
To my left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. We're still a little snug in that top corner. Because what I don't want to do, I don't want to force the door into the hole. I want to force the hole around the door, okay? So I've got air, I can see daylight coming through here and here, right? And so there's a gap there. So what I want to do is I want to tighten this together, and then I want to hammer this over to make sure that we got to push that top corner just a little bit. None of us are going to be master builders. No, most of you aren't going to have any experience with framing. And so knowing what is acceptable when it comes time to fussing around like this is the key to making your door fit. I don't even know if I got much out of that. Okay. I think what we're going to find out here is that when you're installing your doors and your framing, give yourself an extra ½ inch. Don't do the 2-inch rule, do the 2.5. All right? That'll make up for all these different minor variances. Right now, the only thing that's making me have a problem are these 2 little screws up here. Can you believe that? So they got screws in there to hold it together during shipping. So this is staple, okay? And that's normal construction. But then they add these screws for during shipping. Okay? Well, what they are right now is proud almost a 1/4 inch. They're in the way. So we'll try this one more time. See, now that might be snug, but my gap is perfect. The entire world likes to act like they can do things perfect, but we're dealing with wood, and wood is never perfect, all right? So what you want to do is take a couple of shims here, first of all, lift the door.
You want me to lift the door?
Yeah, and set them on the shims. See, we're looking to make the shim pack about the same height as what the door is going to be sitting at, so you're going to hold it somewhat level. Okay, so that's about right. So lift it to sit on that, good. Okay, now your door should be somewhat square. So check the flush from the corner and the top and see if it's flush.
It's definitely not flush.
No, the door needs to go up even more, doesn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll start at the bottom, okay? Make that flush down there, All right, so if you're working alone, you can use the shims to hold the door. We're gonna do, take out one of these hinge screws, okay? That does nothing for you. And for today, I've only got deck screws on me. I'm gonna replace these with silver screws a little later on. But now, Matt, what I want you to do is lift the weight off the door until the door is also flush at the top. Okay? Now this is tight on this corner. That's fine, doesn't need a shim. Now, we're going to close this door a little bit. Here we go. Off the shim. Let's get the level surface of the hinges.
Okay.
And see if, when that's flush, if that's level.
No, it's
How
got to go out of the building.
How much?
A 1/4 inch.
Really? Can you put the level on the wall then for me?
Wall's leaning backwards.
The wall is leaning backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned if the wall is leaning backwards, because when you open the door, it's an inward swing. That way, it's not going to close on your butt by accident.
Right.
All right? So that's not a big issue. Okay? So what I'm going to do.
Make it level with the wall then, so that it opens and closes with ease.
Yeah, because when you're looking at it, if you have to pick level with the wall, or flush with the wall, or level to the universe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What has more effect on how you finish the project? Level with the wall. Flush to the or level with the universe means nothing, because once we get outside, you don't want to have it going from 0 to 0 at the top, right? Now, when you're doing a door, if you start on the hinge side, and see how it's sitting on the ground,
Yeah.
and it's sitting free, it's automatically square because it's sitting flush. Okay? So what we do is we grab shims. Now the shims come from 0 to 0 and back to back. Everywhere along this line is the same thickness. Okay? If you're doing your shims like this, you're doing it wrong because you're going to cause your door jamb to twist. All right? So I always go back to back. Slide 2 of these in there. Well, that's almost perfect already, isn't it? Okay, now, if you want it thinner, because it's a little snug, what you do is you go like this. Now, it's still the same thickness here, here, and here, but it's a thinner thickness, okay? And that's how you do your shim work. So we'll start like this. All right, and we'll hold the skinny one and we'll push the thick one until it's snug. We don't want to move the door out of square. We just want to make sure that it's snug. We'll double check the gap over here at the very bottom and at the top. The middle can be anything because it's just loose jam. But I'm looking at a nice gap here, decent gap there. I don't like how my door is so close here, but not over there, okay? So, move the shims for a second. I'll show something to the camera. If I take my door frame and I go left, look what happens to it. It pinches off here, right? So I want to make sure that I'm coming as square over here as I can up against this corner. So I want you to put in shims, and I want you to push it till it's as tight as you can make it. Because that way that'll force the corner and keep this gap more consistent. Okay?
Basically pulling with this one and then pushing.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're there, we'll make it flush, and then I'll open the door and put a screw in it.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Is the door flush?
Yep.
Okay. All right, now we can test to see if the door closes. All right, now that's nice. When I close the door from the handle, I've got the same depth off the edge, and that's just the gasket. So that alignment is really good, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna pop a screw from the middle, and then you're gonna shim it in place.
Okay.
There's not much gap there, but you still wanna use 2 because the frame is square.
In the middle?
Yeah, super thin.
So if it's too thin for the thick part of the shim to
Yeah,
get through, do I
you
just
start from the outside. In a perfect world, you wanna use 2 no matter what.
Okay.
And it's the bottom quarter. Like, we're using the second screw from the bottom. We're gonna try the door again. Make sure we didn't pinch it too tight. If it's too tight, this gap will close up altogether. I'm gonna say that's closed a little bit too much. Okay, I wanna have it a little loose here. Just snug the hole in place, because what happens when I drive a screw, watch the jam, how much it moves when I drive a screw into a cedar shim. Okay, because that's a cedar shim, it's softwood lumber, it compresses under the screw and it'll actually move. Lift that shim up for me. Watch the movement. Okay? It was small, it was like a 1/16 of an inch. But that's a big 1/16. So when you're using shims, put them to where things are snug, exaggerate it, and let the screw pull it back to where you wanted it. Now that side is done, we can come over here and just line up flush, okay? And we can do the same thing. We put in 3 screws, okay? Now, I haven't told anybody this yet, but I don't want a white door. I want a black door. So I'm gonna paint it in a few minutes. So this gasket here, generally speaking, what we wanna do is we wanna get in behind it when we drive our screws so that when we're finished, it's covered, okay? But since I'm gonna paint this door, I'm gonna get rid of these and replace it with a black gasket after the fact, okay?
Oh.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna drive our screws in right in this joint here. That'll be covered by the gasket later. This allows me to paint this door, and at the end of the day, you know, I can either install my lock and then put my deadbolt in here and maintain that gap so that it's not touching anything when it dries. Yeah, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put in 3 more screws on the side. Never use a screw on the top, okay? And then we're gonna use the shims. We're gonna put in the shims until we feel it pushing the jamb, okay? So, down here you got a really good sized gap.
Yes, 4 shims.
Well,
Thanks for me.
and it's important that you set your shim around the same height as the other one. So, you know, you're right, about 6 or 8 inches off the ground. All right? Now that's pretty compressed, isn't it?
Yeah, it says pretty good.
Okay, now close the door and double check. And what you're looking for is the consistency of the gap.
I could probably move the shims a bit to open up the gap a little bit more because I made it a little too tight.
Okay, that's good. That's soft. Remember, when I throw in this screw, it's going to pull it tight, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to try it first quick just to make sure. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yep.
All right, so this is something that you only get to do once. The last thing you want to do is start undoing all your screws, moving things around. One step at a time, make sure it's perfect. We're going to drive our screw where it's going to be hidden by that next gasket, holding onto the shims so they don't spin around. That's a way to get a really good injury, okay? Have that screw flush to the surface. The bottom and the top are already fixed as far as dimension.
Okay.
This is flexible, right? You want to shim here. Now, do we have any shims up here at all?
No.
In this particular case, the frame is a little crooked. The door is square, so that bottom corner there was right to the frame, and the top corner here is right to the frame. That's the end of our mercy, all right? So I'm gonna let you finish this off. You screw up the top, and then what you wanna do is instead of eyeballing here, you close the door and make sure that the contact at the bottom, when it's flush, is also flush up here, okay? So you can check that just by going like this, okay? Yeah. Reach across the top and check that one. Is that one flush?
It is now, yeah.
Door to the jamb.
Yep.
Okay, so it's perfect. So you don't have to alter the frame. You don't have to twist it in or twist it out. Frame's in a great spot. So open the door and throw in that one screw at the same height as that hinge.
Okay.
Okay. And off you go to the races. Okay, you got it. Now double check your door. I know, it's a lot of opening and closing. That's what this is. Is it sitting flush?
How would you say that looks? Is it when it's closed?
Yeah, so the gap is a little bit bigger up top, isn't it? Because you see where your screw is?
Yep.
So there's room for a shim. There you go. You'll notice that this gap opened up. That's all I can get out of it. Okay, now drive a screw. Okay, now we've got that perpendicular. Okay? Nope, it's still a little too tight. Back it up. Okay, try that. Okay, and this is where you can use your square. Now, that's perfect. All right?
Yes.
Good. Now, double check with the door. And if everything is square and flush, then it all moves along really well. There, you're in great shape. All right? So now all you gotta do is grab a couple of fresh shims, line up for the middle to make your gap consistent from the door to the jamb. Okay? Now, in this case, we've got a couple of things going on. We're gonna have the safety latch. We've got another latch down here. So you wanna put your shims right in between the two of them, okay? And there you go. And just make sure your gap is consistent right here from the door to the jamb. And then when you're done, overcompensate for the screw compression.
I would say that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it is really nice. So overcompensate. There you go. Now drive the screw. All right. Same location, square, just a little touch off. So no, don't go too far. Just enough to pass that. You want to make sure the gasket covers. All right, now try the door.
Beautiful.
All right, now open the door up halfway, like right around there, and let go. Okay, that's the test of a door. That's a great install.
Cool.
Okay.
So now we cut off the shims, right?
Now we get rid of the shims. Yeah, the way that you work this is you want to score it on a bit of an angle, so you're actually cutting into the jamb a little bit. So you start from flush on a couple of degree angle, and you can do it that way, right through the whole shim. 2 or 3 scores, or you can score it and then snap it. And generally speaking, it snaps pretty clean. Or you can go grab your multi-tool and fuss around trying to vibrate that all off, but that just makes a mess in my experience. If you're not driving 2 screws into the jamb, using a multi-tool just is a waste of time. There we go, nice and clean. Okay, now you'll notice one thing. We left ourselves lots of room up top, right?
Yes, you just foam that
A little
gap.
too much. No, we're gonna throw a 2x4 in first because we want to have a nailing surface for all of our J-trims. So cut me 37 and 7/8. That's how tight that is. Like just there. Okay. So we got a door. Here we go.
Beautiful.
Now, now I know there's going to be a few of you like, you're experienced with doors and you're thinking, hey Jeff, what are you doing with this? Because the sill is overhanging. It's like a weak spot in here. Truth of it is, we're going to be building a little deck, porch, patio out here when we're done. And we're going to set this up so that our finished decking carries the load from the sill. It's going to be very precision work, but it's going to work. So this is going to be the way I finish my building. I'm putting in my J-trim to receive the siding. Before I put the siding on, I'm going to be taping the seal shut. And then over top of that, I'm installing PVC trim, right? So you don't actually see the J-trim. The siding will just disappear in behind, all right? So my plan is to actually paint my PVC with an exterior paint that's gonna like last 20, 30 years. And the jamb, and the door. Now, you're gonna notice, yeah, Jeff, you didn't pull out any tape, you didn't cover the sill plate. What's going on, you crazy man? It's all about speed right now, guys. I am all about speed in a situation like this. If I get a drip or two of paint on my sill plate, I'm gonna grab the wife's nail polish remover and I'll take that off later. Here we go. Now I don't have to go all the way to the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect. When I'm all finished, I'm gonna pull out a tube of polyurethane black sealant for exterior. So I can do all my edges and corners and gaps, make sure that everything is the way I want it. And I know that I'm going to be using my PVC that I'm going to paint black over top. And I'm going to use that same sealant on the gap. So all I got to do is get my surfaces painted and then trust that sealant after the fact to get me the look that I want. Remember, every project is knowing the end from the beginning. That way, you don't end up with unsightly situations. If you know the solution before you even have the problem, it makes life a lot simpler. The rest of the door jam I'm going to do with a mini roller. Just want to get these details and in the corners. Okay, when you're using a mini roller like this, remember when you're putting it on your paint, this half isn't unloading, so if you go too fast, it'll spray. Okay, so unload half of the roller, gentle, and then flip it over and unload the other half so that they're both relatively dry before you start putting any pressure and speed to it. The goal here is just to even it out, avoiding drips. Here we go. Okay, spin it around. And just take our time. Continue to unload that paint. Starts to roll. There you go. This wide open. The locks are all mortised. You don't have to worry about inside the mortise. It'll all be covered with the hardware later. Now the way we finish this is with J-trim, the vinyl J-trim, that gets nailed in place and then taped to the weatherproofing. But for good measure, there's nothing that says you can't get a coat of paint on that wood. Remember, it's all about what happens if water gets in behind. And if water gets in behind here, it starts to grow mold. So giving it a certain amount of weatherproofing doesn't hurt. That looks a hell of a lot prettier. Okay, the only thing left for me to do now is paint my PVC on the couple of sides there. Get that all fixed up, ready to roll. Matt's setting us up for our siding. So the first thing you need to know about vinyl siding is where to get it, right? Most people would think I'm gonna go to my local builder store. Be careful, some of the builder stores, they're only carrying 1 or 2 colors in stock, and the special order is the thinnest, cheapest product available on the market. As with anything, guys, the product lines that exist out there come in varying degrees of quality. Comes the same with paint, with cabinets, with tile, with anything. Vinyl's no different. So you can get the really thin, cheap stuff, or you can get a much better quality, okay? Almost twice as thick. The stuff that I'm buying, I get this from Gentek. The local home hardware up here in Ontario is the supplier for that. They got it to me in 48 hours, delivered the house. So that's a great option, all right? So consider going to a smaller store if you can't find the quality that you're looking for. This color is iron ore for everybody that's interested. And that's right, we're gonna get a very modern, sexy look today. Now, before we get started with our corners, we do wanna chalk our starting strip line. That is this product right here. Do not worry about the color of your starting strip. They come white, gold, black, beige, whatever else, it doesn't matter. This gets covered completely by siding. The point is that is what we attach to the house to determine the first row of our siding, okay? All right, now when you want to determine your starting point, you take a look at your door. This jamb extension, it comes all the way down to here. Okay, here, let me do it this way. It'll be like a pointy stick, all right? It's the same height as the bottom of the sill, okay? And so what you want is you want your starter strip to come down to that height, where that is. You want this to be at the same height as the bottom of that, all right? That way your siding goes on and it's just a hair shorter, okay? Like a 1/16. That's it. So the way we achieve that is you're gonna need a help for this. So we're gonna hold it close to the wall, and I'm gonna lift it up until I'm making contact with the bottom. And are you making contact?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, I'll put it to the wall. And you gotta snap your line at the same time. Okay? And go. There we go. There's the bottom. There we are. I like that. Now remember what that represents, that corner, because this door is sitting exactly on my subfloor. That snap line there is the top of the subfloor. Okay? So what we're gonna do, Matt, is we're gonna install our starter strip. So the top of the subfloor, our chalk line, is where this groove is. I'm just gonna mark this on for the folks at home. That's where we're gonna put it. That means this is gonna go to cover the subfloor, and my siding goes a little bit further, so the subfloor is completely covered from the exterior. All right? And part of the reason for that is because we wanna make sure that our nailing flange goes into the bottom plate, and that makes this sit so tight that mice will never be able to work their way into the house. Okay? Here's the secret to cutting at the length. You wanna put your corners on first, because they're a wild profile. Okay? You wanna sit in the profile. All right? So I'm gonna walk you through this. Now, can you reach the top of that? Okay, so, thank you. That's gonna represent the length that I need on this board. Okay? I'm gonna cut this, and then we're gonna install it. And I know I started from the ground, it's gonna be too long, but too long is fine, because I've got a system that makes a perfect cut after the fact, okay? So this is not the time to be picky. You don't have to be perfect when you start. We're gonna teach you how to be perfect when you finish. What I just finished marking here is, on the face, I'm going across underneath that rafter exchange, and on the side, it's an 18-degree slope. So I'm gonna match that slope. In order to do the cutting, I'm using a 4-inch grinder with a continuous rim porcelain tile blade, okay? So instead of cutting through the vinyl, it more like melts it, all right? Now we can do this for every corner, all right? I would prefer if I notched that out a little bit so I could sit it right up, all the way up like that. There we go. The only other thing you've got to be careful of when you're doing this sort of job is, now we've got our position, we want to square off this corner properly. You don't want to have it flattened out where the ribs are sticking up, okay? So you want to square out your corner, and then you want to stick on your nail. Now the key is here, we're hanging this for now, okay? Because we just want to make sure that all of our shape is perfect. I'm going to come around to the back side. And the next couple of nails that I put in, once I have my material nicely squared, I'm going to put at the top of my track. So it's hanging on that track, right? So it's got the ability to grow and expand in heat. That's really what we're trying to do here. Make sure that we stay nice and square, lift it up, set it as high as we can, and then hang it so there's movement, okay? As long as your vinyl has movement, it's installed correctly. If you install it too compressed, you're gonna run the risk of having everything buckling on the wall. There we go. I'm just gonna put one of these every 12 to 16 inches, making sure that we keep this nice and square. We're gonna do this to all 4 corners. Okay, now the next thing we gotta get on here is we have to finish up the detail around our door. So we're gonna add a J trim, and then on top of that, we're putting black PVC to cover it all up. So it has a very similar effect to what's going on with the soffit. So you're not gonna see all of the trims around the doors and windows. My door is 82 1/4. Plus I have half inch subfloor. So I want to cut it 83 1/4. So the front is important. That's why I marked it. I want that square. Okay, and then from the back side, I'll just adjust and come from behind on an angle. And there's my piece. Oops, that's the one I want. Alrighty then. Now when I'm doing this, I'm working flush to the top because the top piece we're going to integrate in just a minute. We've got our piece. I can put it inside. I can measure off into the middle of that track, which will be inside the gap. And just cut it off. Here's my blue line. I'm going to mark it just so that you guys can see it. Okay? And I want that blue line around here. Remember, that makes sure that the vinyl is covering the subfloor area. Okay? See that? Bam. So that's what I want to do. So that's my line. I'm going to put a mark on that, and put a mark on here, and a mark over here. And that's how easy it is to set up your starter strip. All we're doing now is looking for something to nail into. Okay? Now, it's important with every aspect of this, you think about expansion and contraction. It's hot today, so we don't have to worry about expansion. This is already about as wide as it's going to get. But I do want to do, come on, honey, get over there. Stay on that black line and find some wood that I can hang this in. Again, making sure that it's got some wiggle room, okay? Okay. Now we're over here. There's the middle. There's a stud. I can grab it here. And same thing, make sure you're gutting wood on every stud. If you've got sheathing, that's easier, but I don't, because I'm out here saving money. We're going to be putting a piece of trim here, right? And first I'm going to cut the outside dimension on this. All right? Now, because this is all going to be hidden, you don't have to be as picky. If you don't follow my system and you're going to see these trims, you've got to be extremely square. Don't be afraid to use the grinder to get perfect angles, okay? Measure the thickness of our trim, okay? And it's 1 inch. In this case, note, if you're buying your stuff from the Home Depot, they're using 3/4 inch J trim. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut in 1 inch from the bottom on both sides, near the joint, okay? And then we're going to fold that down. We're going to do the same on both sides. 1 inch from the edge. And we're going to fold it down. Okay? And then what we're getting here is this goes inside the other U-channel. The water from here into that channel, all right? And then it diverts it around the corner and then down the side, okay? So this is why we're doing this. It's a water diversion system. My next step, of course, is to cut back my tie par inside my J trim. Nail my J trim on, put the tie par back inside, tape it in place, tape my gaps, and then overlay tape all the way down these J's so that all of the water from this whole system is diverted into something that's sending it all the way to the ground, okay? Now here's one of the benefits of my system. There's a little bit of a gap here, okay? Obviously, this wasn't all the way flush up top. It's not going to be affecting anything as far as waterproofing. It's just for the looks of the thing. That's why I've designed this so that you're putting a cap over all of this that's going to look pretty. So you don't have to be perfect in your water management and your WRB. You can just be efficient and scientifically correct without being aesthetically correct. And then we'll make the aesthetics later. I'm going to need my blue tape. Take my knife. Lift that up and tape it on the inside. I know, it don't look pretty, but just think about rain, okay? Think about the rain and making sure that whatever you put on this wall is going to be going in the right direction, sealing up your corners, which are the weak spots, making sure your whole barrier is continuous. And then, this tape is giving me a lot of issues today. Right here, over top of that flange, okay? Now your barrier to your tape, to your solid vinyl, is all one piece and water can't escape. Matt, you want to finish that run all the way down. There you go, thank you. All right, now Matt, while I'm finishing this off, why don't you pull out a couple of pieces of siding, get them on the table, measure for our first cuts, take actual measurements minus a 1/4 inch. We'll leave just a hair on each side, okay? For those 40-degree days. There we go, guys. There we go, right in the corner. Bam. So if there's a weak spot, it's taken care of. Down the flange. We are now prepped for some vinyl siding install. Always fold the tape over so you can find the end again. So let's hit a couple 71 1/4. Let's hit a couple at 71 1/8, a couple at 71, and we'll follow that curve on the way up. All right, so now, since I'm working with them, we can work like machines, right? So what I do is I go like this. 2 at 71 1/4. Love the markers. 2 at 71 1/8. 2 at 71 inches. Okay, that gives me 6 times 9. Should take me up to around here somewhere. Now what we do, just so you can see this, we're gonna slide below this, okay? Because we've got this locking joint, all right? So I want to bring the back side lower than this front edge, and then we'll clip it up and lock it into place. Make sure she's locked in place good. You can't lift it if it's locked in place, okay? It won't move. If it's flexing, you haven't got it caught right. Now, we're looking for, in this case, because I cheated, remember? I don't have aspenite, so that's my stud, okay? So I'm looking to hang this by gentle pressure up, okay? Middle of the stud, middle of the nail track, okay? With movement. Should be wiggle room there. That is the only protection that we have against expansion, contraction, and warping, okay? Then we hang the siding. So in the next piece, we're going to bend it in behind the trim and starting low. And this actually, siding to siding, locks together a lot better than the starter strip, all right? You're not gonna be so frustrated. Same thing. There we are. Your stud. So once you got it locked in the locking strip, it should hold it horizontal. The secret is apply the same kind of pressure. So I like to use my middle finger to lift, just create some tension. And I use about the same kind of tensile strength with every piece that I'm lifting, so that I'm keeping level. And the only way that you can double check that is every few rows. Ooh, that's really close. Every few rows you can throw a level on it and see how she's looking.
Yeah.
Let's see if we're looking somewhat consistent
Yeah,
here.
we haven't done that yet.
Not in a whole long time.
Oh.
Pretty darn close. Just take a look at the top of the strips. Oh, yeah, we're within a 1/16. Your angle might be a little off on this side, or mine's a little off on that side.
Who knows?
So we can adjust that in the next one.
Yep.
Now that we got everything established, we have a same 2x8 frame all around the entire building, measuring up 7 inches, okay? Boom, perfect. So now I got 7 inches from the bottom is where my siding finishes. So I'm gonna set my starter strip at 7 1/8 of an inch. We're gonna just make marks on the corners, drop a chalk line, and then we're gonna mark up from there where the top of the starter strip goes. And this will be done in no time. When I'm working like this, I'm literally trying to hit it with the heel of the hammer, okay? So if I miss that way. If I miss this way, I'm not gonna damage the face. If I'm trying to aim to the center of the hammer, there's too many times where you're gonna catch a corner. Not sure where the heel is. You can always set the heel on your wall and then just pivot, and you can never miss. Right? But I don't have all day to do that. All right, here we go. All right, and every 12 to 16 inches, which is basically the length of a hammer, if you're wondering, okay? When in doubt, just use the hammer as a measure. Here's a little nugget for you. When you're looking for a distributor for your siding product, it's about the company product line, not the company name. Just like Kohler can make an amazing toilet, or something that's just as much crap as what's going in the toilet, siding companies have different quality lines. And if you know which quality line to go for, it's really simple. Go to the website, look at all the different thicknesses, find the one that's in the middle. It'll also be in the middle of the price range. And then you can ask your supplier, do you sell them by the piece or do I buy a whole box? Some guys will only sell the whole box. It's 200 square feet. And if you only need 1 or 2 pieces out of that box, that becomes a very expensive material. So, where I went to at Home Hardware, they were selling the Gentek product, and this is a really good quality line, and I was able to buy it by the piece. And that was a real benefit. So it's worth the ask. When we do the overlap and we go left to right, the right side overlaps the left side. So you might see this gap here a little bit, but can you see this one and this one at the same time? Hardly at all, right? Now let's flip this look around and look the other way, and you'll see what it looks like from the wrong direction. So these two gaps here, you can see the shadow really predominantly, which means when you're thinking about curb appeal and vision from the street, as people are driving by, as you're getting your house taken to put it on the market, from the front of the house to the back of the house, start at the back, working your way to the front so you overlap, so all the neighbors and traffic see a really pretty house. If that's the back of the house and that's the front of the house, all the neighbors and traffic are gonna drive by seeing all of your little gaps. And that is gonna look like hell, okay? So, all right guys, let me just walk you through the measuring process again. Remember we talked about, that's weird.
Yeah, on every single one.
The factory cut they got a nick in the die, do they? Right? So we're gonna take a measurement from the rib, right, to the edge here, which take the perfect measurement, and it's 45.5. And don't ever be afraid to mark your measurements down with a black marker, knowing that I'm gonna be measuring 45.5 from here, and then cutting straight off. And then when I go and install it, I'll install it like that, I'll slide it into the corner, and then I'll split the difference, and that's where I'll nail it, okay? So let's go do that now, 45.5. Okay, so remember my measurement was from the rib, not from the edge of the siding. That's the whole system here. Okay, lock it in, get it underneath there. Left and right. So I'm gonna split the damage a little bit. One up the middle. Woo! Really does suck it in when it's done, eh? And then just a little bit of upward pressure to make sure you're closing up these gaps, okay? Today we are installing the windows on our shed. Listen, these are painted black, okay? They come in white or black. Lowe's carries both colors, but they didn't have it in stock, so I got the white ones. All right, this window here was framed perfectly. If you remember back to the original video when we started framing this shed, the other side we had to modify on the spot. This side we framed intentional. So what I'm looking for is my inside corner here, okay? And I'm gonna slice down to where it opens up and then come across and then slice like that again. All right, and then the rest of it, I'm just gonna trim off nice and clean. Because we don't have a nailing flange on this window, I have to install it in such a way that we're going to be completely weather sealed on the exterior of the building. I don't need to worry about wrapping all this up in tape and everything else. If you want to, you can, it's just not necessary. There we go, there's my window. We're gonna deal with that later. First, if you're working alone, just grab a piece of scrap wood, all right? This is front heavy, all right? That gives you the ability to move things around and level it off inside, all right? But today I got my son helping me. Ha, ha, ha.
Yes, sir.
I love working with an actual second pair of hands instead of just using tricks like this as a second pair of hands. Makes things move a lot faster and usually a lot more fun. I'm just using my torpedo level here, guys. The sill we installed is sort of level. I mean, you do your best in your framing, but when you're doing actual installation work, there we go, there's one screw. Now, this side is a little bit low. And because we think we leveled the siding, we're gonna try to level the window as well. There we go. Now, I'm gonna hold it tight. Now, I'm gonna just look at the level until I get that squared off. Perfect. Okay, there we go. And we're just gonna fasten another screw down here. The idea is just to create some strength so this doesn't have a lot of movement on the outside. We don't want to have a window flapping around in the wind. We'll go up again. Okay, beautiful. Now that's installed. Now what we have to do is the weatherproofing on the outside. Let's go do that. Just gonna take the measurement, the outside measurement of this one, which is exactly 34 3/4. And then you add 2 inches to it.
34 3/4.
Because I need it to extend the full profile depth on each side.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. There we go. We're gonna get that underneath the tie bar here. All right. Now, my next measurement is going to be 17 and a half and a hair, okay, for whatever reason. Usually it's because when they make these things, they're melting the corners and they're always sticking out a little bit. All right, in this case, I don't know exactly where my 1 inch is right now, so I'm gonna put my nail in the middle of my flange hole. Leave a little room for me to be maneuvering, right? I'm getting way ahead of myself again. Dear Lord, what is wrong with me today? Okay. Before I nail this up, it's backwards day today, isn't it? Is that what it is?
I'm
it's
feeling it
National
too, man.
Backwards Day.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Guys, I gotta cut my trim, just like I did with the door. Cutting it 1 inch down. Okay, and I'm bending the bottom. Both sides. What we're creating here is a path for the water that's going to be collected when it rains. It's going to hit the top of this window, and then we're redirecting it down the sides, all right, by doing that. Now I've got something that I can nail in. This is going to be great. You know, I love this shark tooth hammer. But this is always getting caught on that nail thing. It's driving me nuts today. Okay, here we go. This is sliding in behind. Okay, so any water that gets collected is now diverted down the side and running away from the whole window body, okay? So let me just double check my measurement. Make sure that this is exactly 1 inch. Perfect. Now, I use my thumb as my measuring mark here, okay? I'm gonna cut the back of this away so that the other piece have trim and go in behind. So here, that's my location. That makes it perfect. I do not have a nailing surface here, however, for this flange, so that's why I'm gonna use the drill there, Matt. Just screw that right into the vine. Okay, so that's an exterior screw that's holding the trim to the window. We're also gonna put a little bit of caulking on here after the fact to make sure that that's all waterproof. Let's get the other side on. What I'm doing is I'm modifying this bottom track just so I got a nice clean overlay here, all right? So that the siding can be tight against the underside of the window, all right? The same height as the top trim. We're gonna take our tuck tape and we're going to tape that into the, right into them. Okay. We shouldn't leave this sitting in the sun. I'm gonna go over all of those nailing flange holes, make contact with the WRB here, which is wind and rain barrier, which is what Typar is. There we have it. Now this side is ready for siding. There we go. We'll get out the caulking later. Probably grab the paintbrush, clean this window up, give it one more quick coat, make sure that I'm perfectly happy with it. I can still see a couple of brush marks in this. Oh, well, no big deal. Okay, so what I'm doing is I cut it. I'm gonna try to measure this off, but I wanna get my siding halfway behind this trim first. And give myself a little bit of mercy. So I don't wanna go right out this corner. I wanna go about a 1/4 inch in. So it has a little bit of room, and I do that on both sides. Okay? And then I'm gonna get the measurement, run in behind, all the way to the top, down to here. It's 5.5. And I'm gonna take just a hair off, 1/8 off, okay? And then I'm gonna measure from the bottom up and put that mark. So it's not exactly perfect. I'm gonna cut 5.25 from the bottom. There we go, scooby dude. And I'm gonna measure 5.25 from the bottom. Oh, cool. Okay, I'm gonna use this as a guide. Hold my marker against my square. Run that over here till I see Here's my mark. Okay. Now, because I've got the thick part of the siding, that's of the profile that's left, it'll stick underneath that J-trim, and I don't need to add any backers or buffers. This would be perfect. Now, the secret here, underneath, and then, oop, there we go. And then we got to get it in behind. All right, now, for whatever reason, go. Working in the heat of the sun makes this a little bit easier. But generally, I like to just bend it in. All right. There we go. You don't have to be above the window. You can just come right up, right underneath. Okay. Put this into here.
Yeah, that's good.
And just go up underneath. There you go. Little bit of wiggle room. Yeah, that actually works really nice like that. Okay. Now just remember, use the square to translate that line to where your cut is.
Okay.
And you'll be fine. There you go. You'll find that it's easier to move the J-trim than the siding in that environment, especially when it's warm, right? Oh, careful, careful, careful. Slide. Patience, patience, patience. You're not behind this. All right, okay. Perfect.
Perfect.
Hey, you know what's kind of fun?
Yeah.
They look the same. You measured it and cut it different than I did. You installed it different than I did, but it looks perfect. That's amazing. All right. Oh, wow. We both got a little chunk to cut and install, and then we got to do the big piece across the top. All right. So what I did is I went up on the ladder and I measured the gaps, okay? I just wrote it right on the face of the tie part in my black marker, nice and big, so I can see my measurements from the table. 17 1/8. Boom. Now, in this environment, it's easier to start up top, getting behind all the trims. Okay, and then you just pull it over. Lift and lock. Why is that one? Was catching a nail there, I guess. There we are. Oh. Now, because of the nature of the trim, we're gonna put a 16-foot piece up next. It's gonna go up and around 2 or 3 different objects here. I don't wanna nail this piece in, okay? Very important. These little fillers don't need nails. They're already gonna be held by the J-trims, locked together, okay? This gives us the ability to move. See all that? That gives us the ability when we come back with our long piece, it's not gonna have any structural integrity because we're gonna be cutting around windows and doors. That way we can engage all the locks on all of these 3 pieces and then have one straight line going across. That's how you connect the dots. It's easier to come from the top. You missed the point when I was explaining that on camera. There you go, you slide that in.
No way.
Yeah, and then you just pull it over the bottom. Huh. No way, he says. Boom. Okay, now I'm in. Can you pencil mark where that cut is gonna be? preferably marker. It's a lot easier to see, and it's a 16-foot piece, right? You got one on you?
Yep.
Okay. Use the marker. Just a little line. There you go. Okay, now, I also need you to mark where it goes behind the door jamb. The door J, okay? All right, and that's in behind?
Yeah.
Okay. We're measuring from here to here. And that's the depth of the cut. Here we go. Coming from the top, get in my J trim there. Get in all your trims. It's gonna be the hardest part is to work around the doors and those connections, okay? Okay? You got that one? All right. Huh? What did we do wrong? Yeah, measure from the rib to the siding instead of the top of the door. Okay, well, that was really well done, Jeff. Wow. Okay, when you make a mistake, you can modify your cutoff siding so that you can still have that overlap. By doing this. All right, so now we can measure from the rib.
Yep.
For the next piece. And we'll just do the same thing. Grab another full one for me, bud.
Cool.
Great. So it's not a full piece, eh?
8 inches,
Yeah.
7 7/8.
Huh. We're 8?
8, yeah.
Okay. Let's get, what this is instead of using... Nice.
That might have been me.
Instead of using the J trim up here, we're using a different profile. And that's a little bit different profile. This is designed for when you cut your siding and your profile is really close to the wall, okay? This is how we stick it in. Oh, look at it, nice double all the way across. All right, so that now when we put our siding in, the little skinny profile will slide underneath that and that'll hold it nice and snug. Woohoo!
Beautiful.
All right, all the way to the left, my friend.
Oh, we're friends now.
We want the joint. I got all kinds of words I can call you.
Okay.
Sweet.
You know what we're doing?
Kind of. Now, some of you guys are gonna be like, oh, that's gonna look like crap. You don't have a trim. Remember, we're using a 1x6 fascia, okay? Comes way down to here. It's gonna be almost flush right up against the siding. So the finish is gonna look amazing. I'm building this way on purpose so that it minimizes the amount of mistakes that a DIYer can make, okay? And trust me, we've had our fair share. All right.
There we go.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All right, now the last thing we got to do here, grab a couple of soffit screws. and 3. I got 4 of them. That's good. I'll give you 2. One in the short piece and one next to it. So the soffit screws are black in the shadow from the underside. Okay. Designed to pull the 2 joints together. All right. And the reason I'm using those is because there's no nailing fin on this, and the compression is great and all, but we just want to have that little extra peace of mind so that we don't come back after some bad windstorm and have siding laying on the ground. So I'm taking 1x6, all right? Knotty pine, trying to save a couple dollars here. I'm going flush with the end, and I'm gonna throw a screw in it just so that I'm gonna be finishing as wide as the total soffit assembly will be. Okay, come on, baby. Okay. All right, we'll try that again. So this is the nicer wood. I believe that these are actually 25 bucks a pop in Canada right now. Insane.
25 bucks a piece?
Yep.
Yeah, that is insane.
Okay. That is my location right there. There we go. Yes, sir. That is a darn good look. All right. Hoorah. Hey. Really? Why don't you just pass me the other end?
Oh.
All right, let's go to 79.5. There we go. Brilliant. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show you guys how to put screws in the wood near the end. So we got just the point of in the wood. Okay, we're going to go in reverse. And then I'm going to change my angle because I'm going into a rafter. And I'm going to change my angle this way as well because I want to make sure I'm catching a lot of this meat on the way through the wood. I'm burning it in reverse the whole time. Now I've got my trajectory all lined up. I go in forward and the wood never splits. Perfect every time. Hey, here we go. One more over here. Okay. Now this last one, Matt. 34 1/4.
34 1/4.
You gonna do the reverse strip there?
Do I have to?
Yeah, because you're right on a knot, let alone. There you go. Oh, you're on a knot. I would say not to do that. Okay. I'll do the second one on the bottom so it doesn't curl up. Okay. So what we want to do when we're doing fascia is we want to have the face actually wrap the side piece that's coming. Okay, and then we'll be able to have the side piece come down over top of the wrapping. So we're going to just cut room for something simple like that. I'm going to take my little whisk bender here. Okay, there we go. Now I got a cap. All right.
Oh.
One at a time, how's that sound?
Yeah.
All right, and we don't want to screw through the face if we can get away with it.
Okay.
Okay? Now, find a place where it's solid because the wood is coming and going, and pull it underneath, but don't go too close to the front or it'll get a wrinkle. There you go. Now, in the same location as underneath, you want to put it up the top, above the last rib on the flat section, okay?
Just on the top. Like that?
Just make sure that the pan is on the other side of the profile of that rib, or it'll flatten and start to dent out, right? You see that? There you go. Okay, so that leaves the profile looking really clean. See the other screw where the profile got a little dent? All right, so start and then slide it in, okay?
Under?
Yeah. Close it up first. See, because the end has a cap on it. And then slide it until it's perfect. I'm just gonna hit the face of this. Okay, and then we're gonna hit the face of this. Okay, and then you're gonna drive the middle and the end. You know what? You're way too far back, yeah. There you go. This one here from the ground, you can see it being pulled up because of the curve that's in the wood. So I'm just gonna take a little relief. So I don't like the look of that. Now, because it's a screw, I'm just gonna back it up just a touch. And you'll look at, it changes the profile. There, that's much nicer. Cheers. All right. Yeah, figures. All right. Thank you.
Here you go.
Well, there we go, eh? We move so fast sometimes we forget what we're doing. Thank you. Okay. Little retrofit action here. There's my stud. Boy. There we go. Okay. All righty. And instead of using a hammer and swinging off a ladder up here, I'm just going to use the screws. There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
Hey guys, it's Jeff from Home RenoVision. Today we are building a maintenance-free deck. That's right, we've been doing decks on our channel for years. Usually I'd use cedar or pressure treated, but today we're using Trex. We're gonna just make a quick triangle here and use this board for our marks, okay? I measured 4, I'm gonna measure off 3. I wanna get something that's just a complete extension right off the corner, okay? And then what I'm gonna do, Matt, come on over here and give me a hand with this. All right, I'm gonna hold this here. You're gonna put that 5-foot mark on that black line.
Yep.
And we're gonna pivot.
Right there.
Okay, perfect. For me, the best way to deal with a block like this is take a little bit of spray paint and I'm painting my outside corner, okay? Oops, there we go. Once I move the board, that's where I want my post to be, okay? We're gonna use joist hangers on this end, and over here we're gonna have a rim joist, and I'm gonna have a 4x4 post adding a structure coming out of the middle of this block, okay? So this corner right here is that corner right there. So the way I line that up, nice and simple, I get this line on that line, this line on this line, boom, okay? There's my mark. We're gonna dig out that square.
Sweet.
Okay? All right, and then we're gonna set it on this corner here. Here we go, boom. We're gonna cut it a little bit big on purpose, so we got room to maneuver once we get going, eh? Okay, and then here we go. And we'll go like that on that line. Okay, happy digging. It's nice to have some young muscle around. Really what we're trying to do when we're doing a floating deck is create something that's square and not a parallelogram, okay? So we're gonna use screws as we get started just to tack it all together, get all the points and locations pinpointed perfectly, get everything squared off, okay? We can have the ability to move those bases for the post. It's not a big issue right now. First step is attach the outside, this is called the rim joist, okay? We're gonna go all the way back to the building. I've got my mark on my shed here. I can attach it to the shed because it's also on the same CAMO blocks, okay? So it's a floating structure. I can attach a floating structure to a floating structure. What we're gonna do is, because we've done the math backwards, we know that if we bring our joist to this height, okay, I have a 1-inch gap to the door here, and that's exactly the thickness of our finished material. So it'll go up to the siding and underneath this step right here and carry the load of people walking in and out. So the way that we're gonna be able to do this is lifting it right up to the siding, okay? And I'm just gonna throw in 1 screw for now, just to hold it in place.
Boom.
Yeah, it's on the pedestal. Okay, beautiful. Gotta love a good ground level deck, eh? We're gonna go 2 inches. And I've got to cut off the extra material right here. It's 2 inches up, 1.5 inches over. 3 inches over. Let's see if we can get that in there now. Flush. Yes. Throw a level on that now for me. Let's make sure.
We gotta lift my left side.
Good, so we're fine. The goal is to tack together the perimeter so that you can confirm that you're level and square. And whatever that takes is what that takes. Now, these screws are temporary. Okay. Now, one thing we don't need here, we don't need this post to be inside that corner perfectly. It has to carry the load from here. So that works. So let's put the level on this side, and I'll throw in another screw.
Right here.
Okay. Hit the front, let's confirm. Should be inside the number lines. Yep, we're good. Okay, all right. I thought this was gonna kick my butt, but here we go. All right. So now we've got 3 points of contact for the rim joist. 2 of them are gonna be through the face of these posts. Now we gotta cut the post down. Pressure treated lumber is rated for ground contact. The 4x4 posts are anyway. And they come sealed and stained. But everywhere we cut, it's no longer treated and becomes the weak spot on the deck. Good, healthy dose of it. Really soak it in there, okay? There we go. All right. Now we'll go back to level over here.
Right there.
Just with a quick screw again. Now we've got this in place. We think we're square. Now we're gonna measure up our 3, 4, 5 again.
Perfect.
Yeah, nice. All right. And then we should do the same thing over here again.
Perfect.
Okay. Traditionally, with houses, flooring, decking construction, if you're using 1-inch lumber as your finished material, like a cedar deck board or a pressure-treated deck board, you go 16-inch on center. But with composite, because in the heat, it gets a little soft, you gotta go 12-inch on center. All right, so 12, 24, 36, 48. I'm good here. Okay. And then 12 is 60. So that is good. And then 72 is 12. Oh my God, okay. Yes, I'm fine. That's actually 12-inch on center. Okay, that is messing me up. And you're all done over there because you're sharp as a tack. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna start my screw, get an angle set on it, all right? I'm gonna hold it in place. You're gonna make it flush and nail your end. Now, just so that we're clear, 4 nails means he doesn't need to use a joist hanger at his end, okay?
Really?
Yeah, that's structural. Yeah, we got a gap. I can stick my finger in here. So this is what happens, all right? So what we have is our rim joist here. It's got a nice curve to it. It's a curved piece of wood. So even though it's screwed all 4 corners, and even in the middle here, it's still pulling out, okay? So the way you fix that is with one of these headlock screws. These are structural screws, right? But they got a nice flat surface, so we can go flush into the wood. You can drive that in right in the middle. All the heads of those nails will stick out, and then you can just drive them back in again. And really, it's just all about closing the gap. Perfect, okay? Generally speaking, in a lot of cases when you're doing a deck, you're gonna need 3 or 4 of those anyway, so buy a pack of 6. Every second joist, you wanna tie it all back together again. That's a nasty warp, eh? Yeah. Okay, 4 nails on the end. All right, so this time, I'll screw my end in first, and then you can push the board into the wood when you nail it.
Yeah.
All right? All right. Now, line up on your 12, and that nail should pull it tight. Now, one of the benefits of the kind of fastening system we're using, the 12-inch on center, doesn't have to be perfect. Don't drive yourself nuts with the lines, okay? Give or take an 1/8, 1/4 inch, it's not gonna hurt anybody. The most important part of this is having it as flush as possible. That's pretty darn sweet. Okay. Whew. There we go. On the bubble, baby. So the next step, of course, is we need to think about our structural transfer, because you can build a box, like put 1 screw on the backside, and that's fine for now. Don't step on your framing until after you put your joist hangers in. But we want to do this. We're going to put one of these structural ones into every one of these joists and into the blocks, preferably 2, because it's overkill. Now, one of those screws will carry 3,000 pounds. 3, 6, 9,000. I'm not sure how many elephants you're gonna have on your deck, but better safe than sorry. So look at it come out the other side. Those are super long. Wow. Okay. And on the last joist, we'll do 2 screws as well, okay?
Okay.
Because we cut it short. All right, so we got two different kinds of support brackets over here. One is a joist hanger, okay? We'll go through the science of this. Basically, it goes underneath, okay, and then you've got nailing surface on both sides. And so all the load from that joist comes along and sits right in here in the bottom of this bracket, and then that is transferred through the steel to all these fasteners. So whenever you're working with a fastener system like this, you want one screw in every one of these holes. That includes the ones on the angles. You can use screws or nails. I like screws because it comes with a bit and it has a hex head fastener system. These are structurally rated. They do have a code stamped on the head, okay? If there's no stamp on your structural fastener, it's not a structural fastener. Even the nails have a code stamped on them, okay? So you put that in there, and on this angle, it goes on this angle, okay? It goes on a 45, so it catches the edge of the joist and the rim and ties them together so they don't pull apart, okay? This is very important. When that fastener is all the way in there, you can see it'll be sticking about a ½ inch into the rim joist, okay? This is the weakest structural fastener you're gonna have in your market. And I happen to know that 2 screws on each side of a hanging joist carries the joist just fine. So I'll put 3 on each side of this corner bracket, and I know that I'm just fine because the strength in that bracket is actually the joint right here in the middle. This joint is what transfers all the load. Okay, guys. Remember I told you it was a sponsored video today? It's because it's sponsored by CAMO. And they do more than deck blocks. They do the fasteners. They do screws. They have stainless steel hardware for the fascia boards that have really tiny heads so you can hardly see them. They've got hidden deck fasteners. I love the hidden deck fasteners. I've used the CAMO screws in previous videos on almost every one of on every deck project. I don't think I've built a deck in the last 20 years I didn't use CAMO screws. Here we go. Every box comes with a new drill bit, okay? And it comes with this cute little accessory that goes on the gun. And here's why. Here's the clip, okay? And little T shape on it, that goes in the groove of the wood that we were talking about. And that's a solid piece of metal that goes into the, okay? That's not plastic. The clip here is plastic, it's temporary. This is solid metal, okay? So that goes into the grooves. So what we do, we put a deck board on, yay, and then we slide this over and we put that into the groove. All right, and you build the whole deck. And you can go 5, 6 rows, putting a clip in every one of these joists. And we'll demonstrate that in just a few minutes, but for now, because we're blocking, you can see the height that clip has to sit at. Now, in the off chance that where I put my blocking, okay, my board finishes, I gotta put a clip here, I can't use the system. Now I'm kind of stuck. So what I want to do is make sure that when I put my blocking in, I put my blocking just a little bit lower than is necessary. It's about 1 inch. So if we drop all of our blocking 1 inch lower, we'll never have an interruption with our clip system, okay? Then we're laughing.
So just completely beside it?
Yeah.
On an angle?
On an angle. So now what you got is you got the ability to get 2 fasteners, and you got watershed, okay? Beautiful. That'll solve that problem. All right, so here's one issue we're going to deal with. We have to deal with it on both ends, all right? These joists, they've got a bow going on. So because I'm doing a 12-foot deck with 12-foot material and then doing a fascia board butting up to it, kind of frame it in, what we're going to do is this. We're going to drop a chalk line, outside corner to outside corner. See how much of a bow I'm out? Okay? Now, the worst part of the bow is right here, right? There you go, you can chalk that up. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this block right on that chalk line, okay? Now we got a triangle, nothing's going to move. Now we measure the gap, and now we nail it, okay? This is exactly 10 1/4. So now we're going to cut the exact block that we need, install that block, We can remove this temporary brace knowing that everything's gonna be perfectly square. There we go, that closed up. Now we'll check our, perfect. Perfect. All right. There we go. Okay, now we're square. Wow, that was work, but glad we got it done. All right, guys, here we go. Next step on the job today, we're gonna use the butyl tape on top of the joist. This stuff is not as convenient to use as you'd like it to be, because it comes off the roll and then you gotta peel the backside off. Somebody's gotta go back to the drawing board and make a joist tape that actually applies easy. This is the stuff they're selling at my local Home Depot. If you have a product that goes on easier than this, let me know in the comments. So, my first board has got a couple of considerations. One, each end is mitered to receive the water flow, okay? And it's gonna be roughly about there. This sill, remember we designed this from the beginning to have our siding come down an inch from this point, and that is the jamb height, and the sill has the same height. Now when you walk on it, it gets compressed. So the idea, lift this up and then slide it underneath. Now we're tight up against the door, but there are gaps all the way along the side. So what we want to do is just kind of even those gaps out a little bit. That looks pretty good. And then in order to get started, I know this is a hidden fastener system, but we do need to use some surface screws. Okay, we're gonna use a trim screw and pre-drill and drive them in to set our first board in place. And then we'll be able to show you how the rest of the system works. All right, so these are a CAMO trim screw. This is a very unique head, it's very short, okay? It's a low profile scenario. So what you'll see is, we'll pre-drill the hole. And then drive that screw right away without moving it. Okay?
Is that considered
yeah, so what you'll see is, the way that finishes, it's a bump. Right, so you want to drive it down a little bit more, and then you can use your hammer to get that residue. There you go. Now you can give it a love tap. Good, okay? That makes it almost invisible, all right? So what we have here is a great little system for creating compression on the job site, okay? I'm gonna show you this. We have something that's rigid, okay? And you can adjust this for a single or a double thickness of a joist, all right? And then we have this here that turns off center. See, that's off center. So as the wheel turns, it opens or closes the thickness to sit on that joist. Okay, does that make sense? You see that moving there? And then we have this wheel, which is off center, which is designed to work together like this. You put it on, hold it still, all right? And then you got a deck board here, and you can push it and compress it into place just by levering it, because the wheel is off center. Here's our fastener system. We showed these earlier in the day. Boom. We just set it in place, okay? That one's attached. Now, we get the groove in there, okay? We set our clip on the rim joist, clip on the joist. That's it. This is how we attach it all. So, one person is going to be sticking the boards on, one person will be sticking all these clips on, and then once we have, I don't know, 6 or 8 rows, we'll use the compression tool, jam it all together, because this one's already screwed in place. And then we have a stand-up screw-down tool. We'll drop all this in just a couple minutes. We'll put all the screws together, okay? That's why you can go with a no-surface screw deck for the body of the deck, and you don't have to take all day long to install it. Now, the way we're doing this for our assembly is this. I'm using this as my template. Okay, I'm gonna hold it here. I'm gonna, whoa, come over here until I'm absolutely in love with it. And there we go. You don't have to force it all in. We're just gonna assemble the whole deck like this right now. All right, guys, so I'm set up for a single joist, okay? It says right here on the front, single joist, all right? And then I'm adjusting this rotation to make it as wide as possible to set it on the joist, close as I can. And then I'm gonna compress that by holding that handle there. And watch this wheel, because this is offset. This will create pressure, okay? There we go, now that's compressed, right? So that's really handy. Now, if you give me my little cheat block there, I'm gonna do this one first so that we can set our end. Here we are. That's perfect location there. Nice. There we go.
So same thing, just under the surface?
Yep.
Right?
Yep, screw it and then hammer it. You got it. We get to take advantage of the heat today. It'll be somewhat malleable, and you can just flatten all that out. There you go. There we go. So what that means now, this whole row is ready to be screwed in. Here we go. That obviously goes in your drive. So you can't use your impact driver for this. You gotta have a regular chuck drive for this, okay? I'm just guessing.
Oh.
Yep, okay, so you pull this back, the collar back to release it and to set it, okay? And then this is the drive system. And this is really solid, okay? This solid steel. So what happens is you can be standing here, kind of hit the area, and it'll funnel it right into the bit, okay? Put this on, we'll lock over the pin, lock it in place, boom. Let's put this one on the impact driver, so that way you don't have to change your bit, all right? We'll leave this one on here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set the resistance on this drill. If you go to 1, any kind of resistance at all, like you get an inch in, it'll die out on you, okay? So we'll start off at like 5 and see if we get the right depth on that screw. Whoa, too much compression, wasn't it?
Perfect.
Yeah, but did you see how much it pulled that board down? Dial that back to 3, okay? Try this one now. Yeah. And did it die out on you?
No, I stopped drilling when I felt torque.
Go to 2.
Okay.
Let's try to take the need to feel it out of the equation. That
stops.
It stopped by itself, and I saw the compression. Yeah, there's no movement. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so if you have the same drill as I do, number 2 on your torque setting, and what speed setting are we on?
1.
We're on number 1 speed, number 2 torque. Now, you can change your speed setting and go higher speed now. Now you got your torque setting set. It should work. Just go to 2 is plenty. And do this screw here, and we'll do that test as well. Done. Perfect every time. Okay? That's how you use that kind of drill. Set the right torque, the right speed, and then once you've got it so that you have an automatic stop on the drill, it'll do that torque even at 10% battery power. So the entire time you're working, you're always in a perfect set. If you set the torque wrong or you're trying to feel when to let go, you're gonna be inconsistent with the fastener. That is perfect. We've done such a good job installing. nice and tight. The gaps are all very consistent. Here's my next gap, and I don't come to the edge of the deck. Now, in a perfect world, I'd have a fascia board that was only this thin, and I could have the fascia board come up and leave that same gap and I'd be fine. But the fascia boards are out of stock. God bless you all. So, what we're gonna do is get a little creative. I have to finish this project because I'm selling this property. So, I'm gonna be going vertical on the side, right? And then vertical on this side. But how do I match those two? Isn't that a kicker? Well, I can get my deck to have an overhang, right? That's a good idea, but I don't want to see this ugly brown part. So what I gotta do is I take the table saw and I'll set the depth where that groove is, and I'll run it through the table saw and I'll cut it back to here. All right? That'll give me a nice flat piece that I can have overhang and then tuck this right into it. That means somewhere, right now I got about a 2-inch hole. That's just really not good for me. I got 3.5 inches of material that I gotta find. Well, the truth of it is, I could even go that much on my overhang. And I'm gonna be fine with that. So, in order to get that much overhang, I need 3 inches. Easiest way for me to add 3 inches onto this deck, 2x6, 2x4. And then I can use my stainless steel screws on that 2x4 here and here and let the rest just hang free. Okay? It's called facade for a reason. It's just decoration, all right? It has no function. We don't want to create a cupping effect, so we got to be perfectly flush. If we have any issues with attaining that, we can use the clamps. Just one screw at each end. Let's just throw that 2x8 off, right off the edge. We'll mark the backside. Okay, we'll cut shy of that line by about a 1/4 inch. There we go. Nice. One over here somewhere. Now it makes sense for not having started the tape over here, right? I had a sneaky feeling this was gonna happen. All right, same thing. Flush at the top. Okay, one over here. And then we're gonna use the grape fig screws afterwards. Okay. This needs to be structural because people can put all of the weight on these last 2 boards, right? So, because our joists are here, we don't have any structural screws in the middle of the joist. We're gonna transfer all that load right here. Yeah, baby. Here we go. This will drive here. Off the side. And I can set the depth where it's really nice. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is line that up again. So that's the depth that I want. I'm gonna mark my bit so I know how deep to go. Okay? When you hold the handle, it separates the board. Okay? And then just drive till the black mark hits the top of that collar there. Perfect every time. We punch it tight, and then I drive with pressure on the board in, and I drive that one home. Okay, boom. Now, we'll drive that all the way across. You need just leg pressure, hit all of that groove every foot or so. And then the face of this, I'm gonna just cut like this. And then we'll double check that we got a nice height. And then we'll drive the screw with those stainless ones that you got. So the goal here is get this side pinned down, pre-drill holes on all of the wood that I cut. And then we'll just bring it right up to it and drive it in, okay? Now, there's a lot of wood that I gotta cut here. The good news is we don't have to finish with our boards. All of our fascia doesn't have to come right to the ground, okay? We get to stop, we get to be shy, we get to be whatever we want because we're gonna finish with white rock around the whole perimeter. Okay, so that we don't have to worry about these things. One of the things you want to do, guys, when you're getting over your grass, you don't want your deck boards in contact with your ground, okay? That multiplies all the problems you're gonna have with frost. All right, that's pretty close. What I was looking at. Now, let's go see what that's gonna look like here. Okay, so when it's finished, it's gonna be like that. Now, is that something you can live with on the back side of your deck? If not, I would love to hear how you would solve this problem. Because really the only way to solve this is make my dimension of my deck 1/4 of an inch narrower. And there ain't no idea in my brain that we can make my deck 1/4 inch narrower without rebuilding the whole thing. So, if it's only the neighbors that are looking, I'm thinking this is probably gonna be good enough for me and about 99% of DIYers out there, but I'm curious about your opinion. Oh, if I just had fascia, I would cut it flush and stick it on and we'd be fine. Again, that's my outside corner here, right? Did I strip a stainless steel screw? No, I didn't think so. Like, that's a hell of a bit. Yeah, these are all too long for here, aren't they? But it worked to tell me that it's square. Okay. Woo! So, I built the corner so that I can go this way because I've got all my cuts. But I don't think they're gonna finish perfectly. So what I wanna do is I wanna get a few feet from each end going towards the middle. And then when I get down to my last 4 or 5 blocks, I wanna find out if I'm gonna have an inch left or a half an inch left or what's the gapping. That way, if I'm too big, I can take 2 or 3 pieces and run a half an inch off each of them through the table saw. And then that gap disappears and nobody really notices the change in the dimension of the material. Here we go. Pencil. Carpenter pencils, guys, are 1/2 inch this way, 1/4 inch this way. Great for spacing. And it works. Wow.